And good evening to all of you joining us today on the Marcia Week Show. A pleasure for us to have you, a pleasure and an honor of mine to be back with you again on this Monday, February the 10th. As I said before, my goodness, the year is already accelerating at quite a rate. We're 10 days into February and we just began. So we want to welcome all of you that are joining us this evening, all of you loyal opposition, CARICOM opposition folk that are joining us today. Real pleasure to have you with us, and a real honor, as I said, for me to be your host of the show again tonight. We're looking forward to an interesting and exciting show. We have some special guests coming up in the show. And as the show title says, it is a hard no for Barbadians, or for Bajans, as they say. And we'll be getting into what all those no's are about. And when I say no's, I'm not speaking about this one. I'm speaking about the N-O S. I'm not sure if there's an apostrophe after or before, but my mother would have told me the correct thing if she was here. But the number of things that Barbadians are saying no to. And we want to be able to look at a number of those things tonight. Let me take this opportunity as we build up to our 200, where I will get that national anthem going, to welcome all of you, Queen Bee and Vernon Garnes. I'm looking down through the list. Some of you have been on quite early. A pleasure again to have you, Lucinda Aline. Mildred Ben, good evening to you as well. And Jacqueline Aline, good night to you. Mark Boland, a pleasure to have you with us again tonight on the show. And we're looking forward to a great show. Yes, sir, as we always try to do on the Marcia Week Show. Thank you to Ronnie Hall for your kind comments and remarks. We are looking forward to a great evening. We are cleaning corruption. I tell you, there's a sense in which I wish we had the kind of cleaning up that I'm seeing happening up in the US. I wish we had an equivalent aspect here in Barbados, that we can clean up all these areas that we are addressing. So good night to you, Jefferson Sobers. A pleasure to have you. I think I called you already, Judy. Oh, Marcia, there you are, Marcia. I know you're going to keep me on my P's and Q's, on my toes. You're going to let me know just when I need to play that that national anthem. Thank you. Sandra Charles, good evening to you. And Lionel Gittins, pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you for your kind words, Marcia. I really appreciate that. Sir Alfred Benjamin, welcome, sir. Good evening. We are always happy to have you from Brooklyn, New York. And I know we have a couple of others that join us from the United Kingdom as well. And yes, Errol Callender, locked on from Connecticut. My goodness. Welcome, Errol. A pleasure to have you with us this evening as well. Hikate, how do you pronounce that? Hikati? No, I'm not going to bite my tongue, but welcome. It's a pleasure to have you this evening. No singular, no plural. Okay. Good evening, Andrea Grant. Nice to have you with us tonight. And Beverly, Mystic Angel, there you are. And of course, as you know, we want you to like, and please share, and above all, subscribe. Give us that thumbs up, give us those thumbs up on YouTube, because that makes a big difference for the accessibility of the show on YouTube. Okay, so we really would appreciate your help with that. So give us that like and subscribe, and above all, share. We want to make sure that we have others joining us on this exciting show, a show where you get educated. We deal with the issues on the island, and not just on the island, in the region, and of course globally, as they relate to what happens and how it affects our areas. And we're certainly going to be engaging that as the days go by. Coming up tonight, John Knotts and the former Minister of Tourism, Mr. Richard Seeley, and they'll be addressing a couple of different subjects this evening, and we're looking forward to welcoming them to the show. Well, we're up to 206, and as Marcia will tell me, it's time for the national anthem. So, ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Barbados.
From which our pride
Amen, amen. And as you know, I always follow up that national anthem with our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. And I want to highlight a couple of words out of our national anthem and out of this pledge. The national anthem tells us strict guardians of our heritage. And we're going to be touching on some of the things tonight that could be a threat to us being strict guardians of our heritage. It is important that we maintain our history and the symbolisms that are symbols that are important in the history of our country for our generations to come so that they know where this country has come from. We have the statue of Lord Nelson that was in the center of Bridgetown. I think they've now moved it, relocated that statue. Children and great grandchildren and grandchildren in days to come will ask, what was the meaning of this statue? Of course, we know that had it not been for Lord Nelson, we might very well be speaking French today here in Barbados. So there is a symbolism to it. There's a symbolism to the images and the statues in the Bay Street in front of the government headquarters. There's significance to the statue of the Right Honorable Errol Walton Borough in Independence Square. Of course, the one in Bay Street is of Sir Grantley Adams. There's significance to the statue of Sir Garfield Sobers at Kensington Oval. There is significance to the landmark statues and buildings and property in St. James, and we'll get to those matters later on. So we have to be mindful that we are guardians of our heritage so that people know what has been the benefits and the privileges of Barbados down through the years. Now, this coming I think would that be this coming Sunday? I do believe it would be, and I'm going to ask um, Dave to put it up. The roadside parliament and cookout in Joes River coming up this Sunday, February the 16th at 3 p.m. All right? Preserving our heritage and saying no to the colonizers. No to the colonizers. Okay? I think I believe this is a video. So Dave, I'm going to ask you to run this video and then I'll come back and make a couple of comments with regards to it.
Calling all Barbados to Joes River Bridge, St. Joseph.
We don't want to do this because what we are doing here is going to block you out from this side.
5:30 p.m. Massive cookout, big roadside parliament. We cannot wait one day to find that Barbados is not our own. Hear from veteran speaker Nigel Newton. Our heritage, our own. Let's enjoy it. See you there.
That's this coming Sunday, February the 16th at 3 p.m. Now, there is going to be transportation available for you to get there from the Independence Square, and it will be leaving promptly at 2 o'clock. There'll be a small fee attached to that transportation, but it is going to be available if you are unable to get your own. You get to Independence Square and 2 p.m. sharp, though. So make sure you're there before 2 o'clock, because that's when the transportation will be leaving Independence Square and heading out to that event at Joes River, 3 o'clock in the evening. Roadside Parliament and Cookout at Joes River, Sunday, February the 16th at 3 o'clock in the evening. All right. In addition to that, we do want to remind you of a petition that is circulating with regards to an upcoming Vibes Cartel event, or should I say an event featuring Vibes Cartel. I believe that's in April. I note with interest that the event that was scheduled with him recently in Trinidad was canceled. I noted that with interest, and of course, I expressed my concerns in our show last Monday, and I do stand by those concerns. Of course, I always stand by anything I always stand by anything that seeks to take away from the attention of the Easter and the importance in the Christian calendar of the Easter celebration. I believe in liberty and freedom, and people are at liberty to do whatever they want to do. But there are some countries that if you violate the religious aspects, you could very well pay for it with your life. But that is one of the aspects of freedom and liberty that we have. But I do believe that we should respect those days that are held most holy in the Christian calendar. And those days, of course, are Good Friday, Easter, and of course, Christmas. Those are the three most important days of celebration in the Christian calendar. And I expressed my concern with this event that would have been held on Easter Sunday. And I expressed it because of the type of presentation that I perceived it was going to be, it would be. I have subsequently seen a number of videos that persons have sent to me. But if they are telling me, or if what the videos are telling me are going to be so, then it should be no problem for Mr. Cartel to shift that event to Monday, and it should be no problem for him to give some positive lyrics and positive encouragement within the context of our country if he does come to Barbados. Now, I'm going to let you know. I believe it is on the chat, in the YouTube chat, and I believe in the Facebook one too, where you can click on and you can access that petition, and you can read the petition, and you can sign up on that petition. You see it there across the screen. And that is call for positive influence and the renouncement of violence at the Vibes Cartel concert. So if the gentleman has changed, as I am being told, having gone through his incarceration, and is going to be coming, we want to be sure that he will be bringing a different perspective as it relates to what he is so well known for. And so I don't know if that is there I don't know if there is a image for that, Dave. If there is, of course you can run it, but if there isn't, that's not a problem. But we certainly want to make sure that you access that that petition and you sign it. Please sign the petition for positive influence and renouncement of violence. And maybe we need to see a lot more of these petitions, especially when it comes to some of the matters that we are engaging when it comes to the governance of this country, and the way that the government is just going about, carte blanche, doing what they feel they should do without proper consultation with the people of this country, making changes that are going to have a significant impact on the future and the heritage of our country. Of course, we are going to be hosting tonight a call-in segment between 9 to 10 o'clock, and we want you to call in and share your views and ask any questions. Of course, as we go through the presentations tonight, I'll try to be keeping an eye on the chat as persons are sharing with any of the questions that you may want to put to them as they share in their presentations tonight. But we certainly want you to be a part of the call-in segment of the show tonight. That is between 9 and 10 o'clock. So make sure you log the number 236-7000, 236-7000, and call in and share your view, share your opinions, ask your questions of the guests that will be here, and we certainly will look forward to you being a very active part of the show. Okay, and remember, share, 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 share. Now, before I get into the full aspect of the show tonight, I just want to make a couple of comments. Today, I heard on a radio, on one of the news reports, a matter to do with the Warrens roundabout. And I want to talk just for a few minutes about what I call road etiquette, if I can call it that, road etiquette. I find that people on the roads in Barbados today are really, pardon the expression, really road hogs. I find, I go down in the morning dropping my grandchildren, my daughter to work, and I'm seeing people trying to get out of junctions, and I'm thinking to myself, if everybody let out one car, you could keep the traffic moving, and it would be so respectful and so decent, and such a wonderful thing to do. And so we I was looking at that, and of course the roundabouts. I realized that a lot of people don't seem to know how to use their roundabouts. And sometimes you will come to the roundabout, and you cannot get around to exit the roundabout because of the rush hour traffic, and yet you will find people come across with no consideration and block the exit from one of the lanes or two of the lanes that could move, because you can't get across to go where you want to go, but yet they'll block up everything, and then you have one massive traffic jam around the roundabouts. Of course, there you have on your imagery the Warrens roundabout. I don't know if that's a roundabout. I would have to say the Warrens. What would you call that? That's not a circle. It may be an about, but it's not round. It definitely is not. It's not round. It's an about. And I must tell you, I have tried on many, many occasions to get out of any of those junctions at that roundabout, and it is a horror. It is a horror. And every single day there's an accident there at that roundabout. And I really feel that there needs to be something done before it becomes a more serious issue. I find that sometimes in Barbados we don't seem to do anything until something serious happens. And even in terms of driving at night, I have observed that people today don't dim their lights anymore. And today, of course, with the new technology, we have cars with very bright lights. I saw some time ago in an article that they were talking about the white lights or something like that. Look, folks, manufacturers are making their cars with these xenon and LED and laser lights. Like it or not, you're not going to be able to change it. Barbados, with the population we have and the amount of vehicles we have on the road, will not even make a measurement on the manufacturer's scale of sales when it comes to their vehicles across the world. So forget the idea of trying to get a manufacturer to put specific lights in for this market. That's a total joke. They're not going to engage that process whatsoever. And so as a result of that, I believe that one of the things that needs to be done, of course, and a lot of the new technology, when you dip the lights of the car, they tend to dip more significantly to the left of the street. And because they're laser and LED, they're very focused as opposed to the floodlight issues that we have. Now, there are some people who change the lights on their vehicles. I do appreciate that. But to me, the issue is the dipping of the lights. I don't care what light you put in. You can put in a halogen, you can put in a xenon, you can put in a laser, LED, whatever it is. What it comes down to really is people dimming their lights at night. And I want to really speak firmly to this matter because it can cause serious accidents on the road. All right. So please let us be decent road persons on the road and our highways. Let us not be road hogs. Let us be respectful, and let us be accommodating. Let us be decent on the road. Dip your lights. Consider letting people out of the junctions that they're trying to get out of on rush hour. Don't block up the roundabout. Trying to, that's a very selfish and self-centered mentality to have. Let people flow through until you are able to go ahead. So these are things I really do want to touch on. And one final thing as it relates to the roads, of course, you would have realized that we had another road fatality on Friday. I know the young man's father very, very well. And unfortunately, not far from my home, unfortunately, I believe there was a misjudgment in terms of his overtaking. I understood it was overtaken. I do know the area of the road. It is not a very wide area, and the cut rock comes right down on the road. Right down on the road. And I think it must have been just a very slight misjudgment on his part. And of course, we know the result of that. And I want to encourage you, be very careful as you navigate our roadways. I know, folk, there's so many oil drillings on our roads. I have to call them oil drillings. I can't call them potholes anymore. We have so much oil exploration on our roadways that it's really difficult. And sometimes, you know, you find yourself pulling to avoid an oil drilling area, and you could strike the embankment, damage your tire, smash your rim, burst your tire. As a matter of fact, I was at one of the tire centers about a week ago, and they tell me that every day, every single day, 3, 4, 5, 10 vehicles a day are coming in to repair their tires, to fix their rims, all these kind of things. And you know, I hear government is moving on its mill and pave program. Yes, I expect they would, because elections will be coming up shortly. I understand the Prime Minister's indicated it won't be this year. We'll wait and see. But certainly they're going to be doing a lot between now and the next couple of years, because it's convenient to do it, you know. But that was your job when you were hired by us a couple of years ago, 2022, 2022. This is 2025. 3 years ago, we hired you to do the job, but you took 3 years to get to actually doing it. And so a lot of people are paying the price when it comes to this matter of our roadways. And of course, finally, from my perspective, we really are facing a very critical issue in this country. Again, on the matter of crime, violence, even in our schools. You know, my grandson was very familiar with a young man that was stabbed at the Barbados Community College. Many of the young people there knew him, and I dare say many of the young people, I understand that the person who was responsible for stabbing has been apprehended. And I do know that the young man who was stabbed is recuperating, I understand, quite well, and he's likely going to be out in the not too distant future. But in terms of a young man, I won't share his name here. That it may be in the newspaper, but I will afford a degree of diplomacy here. He has been apprehended for the stabbing at the Barbados Community College. But this lends itself to us being able to teach our young people how to handle conflict. And I must say, we are all challenged in terms of handling conflict. All of us. Nobody on the panel, nobody here in the chat would be dishonest enough to actually say that they have not been challenged in handling conflict. And so we want to help our young people to know how to cope with conflict, how to cope with challenges in life, and how not to resort to this level of violence and that type of thing. Now, over the past several days, several weeks, there has been some well, over the last couple of days, sorry, there has been an armed robbery. And if I got the article correctly, this was in St. Philip, where a couple of vehicles were taken, robbed. A couple were robbed at gunpoint of a vehicle. You know, the last time I saw anything like this happen, I was in the Kentucky on Southern Main Road in Trinidad. And that was back in 1996 or something like that. I was actually in the Kentucky when it happened, where a couple came out of the Kentucky, went to their vehicle, and two men approached them, armed men, and took their keys and took their vehicle from them. That was the last time I heard anything about anybody's being robbed of their vehicles. But here now, over the weekend, I believe that would have been either Friday or Saturday, we have this matter with persons who were robbed of their vehicles. Government must have their feet held to the fire for seemingly not being able to manage and haul in this criminal activity that is running rampant across our country. One has to ask some very serious questions about what is being done to rein this in. I am watching the activity in the United States with the whole aspect of illegal immigration. And I am amazed at how they are able to zero in and find people. And in our little island, we can't seem to be able to zero in and find the main perpetrators of what is going on in this country when it comes to crime and violence, gun violence. Guns do not just appear in Barbados. They're not dropping out of the sky. Skorks, not skorks, what? Storks. Storks have not brought them like we used to see in the old days. We used to see the stork flying in with the baby hanging from its beak. That weapons don't get into Barbados that way. What is going on at our points of entry? Because I'm not seeing any reports of any vessels being intercepted by the Coast Guard or anything coming in on any other part of this country. What is happening at the port? What is happening at Port Ferdinand? What is happening at the airport? What in the world is going on? How are these weapons getting into the country? And we're talking about high-powered weapons, not just a little 38 special or something like that. We are talking about very dangerous weapons. And I was happy when in my conversations with Marcia, she mentioned to me that they had been out and they had done some filming of some of the children marching against violence. And I want to ask Dave, if you have that video or those videos, please, if you could bring them up and let's watch this. You know, there is a verse in scripture that talks about how a little child will lead them. Here we have children marching on Friday, February the 7th against violence in our country. Let's watch these young people.
Very awesome. There's another school over here that I'm going to go to get to see if I can speak with some people here. Yeah. Wanna just look at some of the signs that they have here. These are some of the signs that the children have made. Very, very creative, guys.
No more. This is the children.
This one says, I am worthy
of peace
and happiness. I love this. Great job. Wonderful. Which school is this? Westbury Primary. Very, very good. Awesome. So we're seeing all the signs here. Can you open these up? Can you open it up so we can see all of them? Yeah.
Look at what these children are doing.
Can you open it so we can see everything? Thank you so much. This is Westbury Primary. Yes. This is all of their artwork.
When are we adults going to do this? We call for march and we can hardly get adults. Look at what the children are doing.
Awesome. These are beautiful. Yes. The children, they did these? Did the children do these? This is awesome. This is awesome.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely fantastic. Look at all those signs. Look, pray for peace. No to violence. Let's unite. This is by the children. Make the right choice. What are we as adults doing? Here, the little children are leading us. If we call for march this coming Saturday, how many people are going to turn out for that march? Look at this. Look at this.
This is all the children. They're lining up to go back to school. Yeah. This is awesome, guys. This is really, really awesome. I just wanted to show you the effort that has been put in this. Oh my Lord. All the effort that has been put in this by all the children. This is really, really awesome.
Yes, Junior Welch, I understand that the police organized this with the children. I understand that that was an initiative, and I commend them for that. You know, bringing the young people and the children into the equation and letting them be a part of the process.
A lot of them are playing and just having fun. And I think that this is so super awesome.
Tremendous.
What they're doing here. Folks, I am here and I'm thrilled. I'm happy to see what's going on here this morning. I think it's so wonderful. And I'm going to see, I'm seeing Senior Superintendent Brooms here. And good morning, Senior Superintendent Brooms. I don't have the camera on you.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's fine.
I know the route to get me.
Yes. But it's so, you know what? I'm not surprised I see you here. And you know, I had to find my way down here.
For sure. I saw you engaged. So I saw you in the last minute, and then I was my love and affection.
Yes, sir. I wanted though to find out what a school said that they were invited by the police. Is this something that the police is doing in the communities?
Well, I can tell you that the police has already been doing the communities.
Always in the communities.
So that's why it has been led by our communities also.
Yes.
Our communities also. So this is what we do.
Yes.
It's just that it may be more in your face now.
Wow.
But our communities also have been doing things that motivate the kids, homework programs, and really I want to speak to the ones in New Orleans and those areas. New Orleans Community Force, they have been doing a lot of work.
Wow, you know what? I'm going to give you a call about that.
Yes, do that.
Right, to talk about the New Orleans, okay? Keep up the good work. Yeah, you're going to hear from us soon.
Thank you.
All right? Okay. That is Senior Superintendent. Yes, I'm Dan Jamal's mother. Yes, I know you. Bailey's, yes, of course. Bailey's the best primary school in the world. Don't talk and let the West End people know. May I speak openly? It's a great school. May I speak to you on camera? Is that okay? Too tired? Oh Lord. Yes, I can. Can I speak to you? Is that your teacher, sir? Are you a teacher? It's so good to see male teachers. A teacher as well?
Depends on what day of the week.
No, but it's good to see male teachers. May I speak to you on camera, sir? Okay, 1 second. Yes, so I'm here with Wesley Hall Primary School. Westbury. I'm mixing up the school. This is Westbury Primary School. And sir, tell me, what does it mean to you to be out here this morning with the children?
It was a wonderful experience. If you see the smiles, if you see the emotion on the person's faces after you watch the show, it was simply amazing. I think the initiative is an excellent initiative, and I think we need to do it more often. Even in the areas where crime and violence is more prevalent, we should even walk through those areas as well.
Yes. Excellent. And how do you think it has impacted the children?
I think the children are pre-exposed to this. Obviously, they have parents, they have siblings, uncles that would be directly impacted by the violence in Barbados. So I think that, it's right there on their doorstep. They can't miss it.
Yes. How are you going to carry this on in school? How will this, in terms of continuity, how do you plan to take what they experience here into school?
I think what we could do, we could use the social studies program, take it forward, speak to the children, talk to them, mentor them, and that's the best we could do right now. As we go forward.
Yes. And do you have a program in school right now?
I guess we will use the social studies program.
Social studies.
Yes, to teach them about some of these issues that are going on in communities and the greater part of our
Yes. How long did it take them to do these are so beautiful, all the placards. How long did it take them to do it? It's some of them very, very creative.
I would say they started working on it from this week because they had sports last week. For the last 2 weeks, the infant sports was weekend front, and then the junior sports was this week. So then they only had this week to complete these placards, and they did a wonderful job.
Yes, it did look good. And was it done in the art, through the arts, to the art department?
Some of the ancillary staff, some of the school meals workers, everybody chipped in and made an effort.
And it's looking very good.
Yes,
looking
even
good.
some of the parents as well too.
Yes, awesome. Well, congratulations, and I know you guys will continue the good work. All right, God bless. So I think they're getting ready to go now. Seem to be getting ready to go. They're lining up. Different schools are lining up, and they're getting ready to go. Overall, I think this is a great idea, and I'm hoping that the messages that they will continue with the messages in the schools. And this one is so proud. Oh wow, this is nice. Did you do this one? Wow. Why did you choose to do this one? Yeah, it says freedom, love, and peace. It's a good one. Very nice. They're all lovely. All very lovely. This is beautiful. Hello. You're a teacher? Or you're a teacher, ma'am? A parent. Can you talk to me on camera? Because I would. We now have a parent here with us. Good morning, ma'am. And it's interesting to see a parent here. What does this mean to you today?
Well, it means that I was just hoping, that the violence will stop, and the generation that coming up now will be a more better generation.
Yes. You think this might have impacted the children today?
Well, I'm hoping so.
You're hoping so. Yes. And the children, they made such a big effort in doing up their placards and so on.
And they really enjoyed it.
They enjoyed it.
Coming up, they were singing, and they really put an effort in it and really
enjoyed it. Yes, it seemed that way. Well, I hope that it is something that they will carry on, okay? And it's good to see a parent here. Okay, so some of them are leaving now. Thank you so much for your time. They're leaving. Bye-bye. Bye. They're going now. They're leaving. The kids are getting ready to leave to go back to classes. So this is really, really awesome. Hey, did you enjoy yourself today?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow, that is absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome to see the little children. And the thing that blesses me with this entire exercise is that it's beginning at the primary school level. This is where it's happening, and I was happy to see that because, I think a couple of weeks ago I spoke to the whole aspect of beginning things at the primary school level so that you can reach the children before they develop some of the bad habits and some of the challenges that they are experiencing in secondary school and in our tertiary educational areas as well. As I mentioned before, Jesuits tell you, give us a child for the first 7 years and we'll show you the man. And I'm so happy to see this happening at the primary school level and with these children. But it begs the question, what are the adults doing? If there's one thing that should bring out a mass protest march, should be violence against our children and crime and violence and gun violence in our country. We should have every Barbadian turning out for a march to protest that whole aspect and to call the government to order to protect our children. Imagine you're going to drop a child to school only to discover that you receive a call that they have been stabbed. Very recently, we had an incident in which my grandson was present at the Dighton Griffith School. And you expect that when children go to school, they're going to go there to be protected, to be secure, to learn, to be educated, to know their mathematics and all these different languages and subjects and so on, and the other skills that they're developing when they're in primary school. And we really need to have security really beefed up when it comes to our schools. And listen, we know that sometimes the people uh, put the things that they want to get into school down by the fence, and then they go in, enter through the security, get checked. You can't find anything, but then they make their way around to the fences. They think we don't know. I keep saying to people, been there, done that, now what? We weren't born yesterday. We had our own ways of doing things too. So we know. And they go then and pick it up from the fence and bring it into school. And so we need to have proper security cameras and all these things around the school, that you can have a security area that can monitor everything that's happening around the perimeter of our schools. Even, I think of a school like Dighton Griffith that has all that big pasture and out toward the highway. But that's not the only video, that Marcia has in this Mike on the Move. I understand she has a couple of others as well. And Dave, I think we have a little extra time before our first guest comes in. If you could bring up that next one, Mike on the Move, Life After a Murder Charge. The deportee tells his story of transformation. Now, I don't know how long this is going to be, but we could give a listen to this as well. Okay, Mike on the Move, Life After a Murder Charge. Okay, I think we might be having a little challenge there in terms of the audio. I'm sure Dave will sort that out. And we want to give a shout out to Dave. Huh? Dave really keeps this stuff moving and helps us so much in the background. Go ahead, Dave.
So I'm sitting here with Touchy. Touchy, I like that name, Touchy. Touchy, where you got that name from?
When I was in prison.
When you were in prison?
Yeah.
So why they call you Touchy?
Because I was always sensitive to people's issues.
Oh, like touchy, feely.
Like feelings.
Oh, feelings.
Right.
Okay, so you were
so
listening.
Your problem would be mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you would sit down and
I would walk the yard with them, and they would tell me whatever they're going through. And I was always, I guess, I got that from my mother. I was always a sociable person. So most of the times, like if I see somebody going through an issue, they might have got bad meal, somebody passed in their family, or some wrong with their sibling or something. And if I know them or know of them, I actually go and talk with them and walk around the yard, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, just to bring them to understanding that at the end of the day, you can't change reality once you're incarcerated. The most you can do is just, send word or wait for a visit or something along them lines to strengthen the people outside to keep them going on, because they also incarcerated with you too.
Mm-hmm.
So that became known for me.
Well, and where did you spend this 25 years in prison?
I was all over the place. It's like slavery. They just ship you to this plantation, that plantation. If your family can't reach that plantation, they say that one.
So you were overseas. It was New York?
Yeah, I was in New York.
Actually New York.
Upstate New York.
State New York. So 25 years ago. So you were what, about 20 years old?
I went to jail at 15.
What?
Yeah, I went to jail at 15 in 1991. I turned 16 on Rikers Island.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they charged me as an adult. No,
what did you do?
A murder case.
A murder case. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so you were running the streets? What?
Oh no. It was just it was more an ego thing. More time when you living in Brooklyn back in the days, you step on somebody's sneaker, they were quick to want to turn to violence or something. So it was always an ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a people, we always had tribal wars. So it's just a continuation.
Correct, like what's happening in the Congo right now.
Right. We always had tribal wars. Not saying that we always been at war with each other.
Right.
But we always had like internal conflict.
So it was mainly like a gang related kind of a thing.
Yeah, in a way.
In a way.
In 1991 in New York, they didn't really have gangs. They had the Latin Kings, they had Nietas. But really, as far as like the brothers, they ain't really had no gangs. The gangs were more like West Coast, Bloods, Crips, and all that. That was more West Coast before it is how it took over the East Coast right now. So it really wasn't the gangs. So you had a few little 1 or 2 Jamaican gangs, but mostly these were gangs that came over.
Right.
They wasn't really started over there.
Over
like
there,
that,
over
right?
there. But you were there from 15 and you spent 25 years. Wow, that's a long time.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's a very long time. But at the end of the day, right, you got to look at what's going on in the street. What you involving in the streets, you got to look at the system set up for what you involve in the streets. Because you playing a game, you can't win. So, and it's a revolving cycle. So it's only after you get incarcerated where you're forced to deal with yourself and look at yourself that you understand a lot of your gifts and talents, and you get to really get inside yourself and get more in contact with your spiritual side. It's only when you, like Malcolm X said, prison is the next best thing to college. Right. So it's only when you get in these positions where you're forced to look at yourself that you from there make, adequate decision to either move forward on a positive or a negative. And you already, like I said before, you're playing a game you can't win, so you see where the negative is going to end you.
Right.
So for the most part, you get involved with brothers that is about elevating themselves. They teach classes, you get involved in classes, learn about AIDS, it's big in community, learn about all kinds of things that you didn't know.
So there's a lot of education happening in the prison.
A lot of education.
So how long ago you came back to Barbados?
I got out of prison in the end of 2018. Right, and I've been in Barbados since then. I traveled a couple of times to London. I was working over there, and other than that, I've been stationed
in Barbados. And I'm sure you've been seeing what is happening in Barbados right now. Actually, when I did the math on it, it seemed to me proportionally Barbados has had more murders than Jamaica for this period of time.
You serious?
Yes. So we're talking proportionally, right, per capita, not numbers, but when because remember Barbados is like one parish of Jamaica.
Right.
Okay. And when you do the calculations, you realize that in terms of our rate, the murder rate, it's more than Jamaica right now. What are your thoughts about that as somebody who you have experienced that, you've been in prison.
Shocked.
You're shocked. Talk to me.
The reason why I'm shocked is because the mindset of an average Bajan doesn't go violence first. Right? It don't go violence first. It will go more yelling or aggravating, or it will go more that first compared to other islands that have more gun access or is more violent promoted. And that kind of surprised me that you said it is. I would bet my life on it that was wrong. That's how much I'm shocked to hear that. I would have never guessed that. You don't really see it. Every now and then you hear somebody get shot, this person's dead, but it's not coming like you're waking up expecting to hear it. Every time you hear it, you kind of surprised. So that is.
But it's we actually have had 8 murders since January 1st. We're not talking about just death, we're talking about murders.
Well, what I would say to that is, of course, media always play involvement in the mindset of people. But I wouldn't even look at the media. I would look at the change in the cultures. If you notice in Barbados, a lot of different cultures is coming to Barbados. And
yes,
with the cultures come the mindset.
Yes.
So say for example, if everybody listens to Jamaican music every day, and Jamaicans come in, you would believe you're of that mindset because you listen to Jamaican music every day. So
you think that Jamaica might be exporting some of that through its music?
No, I ain't saying that. That is nothing new. The way how the system is set up when it comes to entertainment, the industry, you get paid more money for promoting violence than being productive.
But what is the impact you think on the Barbadian youth?
Well, it has an impact because, say, like for example, when you go to school, when the kids get to go to school in the morning, they catch these yellow vans. These yellow vans is playing.
Case in point, yeah.
They playing it loud, and what they playing is either talking about sex or violence. It's every morning. It's every afternoon you catch a flight to go home. So if you're going through 4 terms of that, right, and on
That's
top of
interesting
that,
how you
right,
put it. 4 terms of
right,
it.
because you got to go to school every day.
Yeah.
So 4 terms of that on top of when
Three
you
or
go,
4 terms.
or
Yeah.
3 or 4 terms, and then what happened is now when you decide to like align with your friends, that's still playing. So you constantly got this in your head,
Right.
and then when you talking to your friends, you don't want to sound like you ain't cool, so you entertain these conversations based on how people is wearing and you entertain these conversations, this mindset. So it has an influence. It has an influence. But not to really be speaking or putting it on Jamaicans, but at the same time, we talk about us as a people.
Well, I'm Jamaican, and I happen to believe what you said something that caused me to think. Before, I used to get annoyed if people tried to do that, but the truth of the matter is, when I saw the style of some of this killing, honestly, I know my Jamaican friends probably going to be upset with me, but when I saw the style of it, it looks to me that it's something imported.
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying all of it. I'm just
Right.
saying that because you know why? Because I've lived here
Right.
and I've seen how Barbadians are. I'm not
Right.
saying that they're not
But they're
violent,
not violent, right?
but there's when you start to go into a minibus with children to shoot in a minibus
Right.
and so on, it reminded
don't
me of
come
a
like a
place
Bajan,
that I'm
right.
familiar with.
Right,
That's
it
the
don't
truth.
come like a Bajan.
You know,
Bajan.
and I know that I know one of the things that I know is I know that there are quite a few that are coming over, through the whole CARICOM, the way the thing is
Then
set up.
come
But
on.
anyway,
Yeah.
but what do you want to say to young people, young men? We deal with young men. What would if you had to sit with a 15-year-old? I have a student who is now in trouble with the law. Actually, makes me really sad. A very bright boy. One of those that got in trouble at BCC. What would you say to them?
I would say, remember that you always got a choice. Remember that despite what the situation is, what the pressure is, whatever it is, you always got a choice. Don't let nobody make you feel that you don't have a choice. Because when they make you feel like you don't have a choice, is when you're gonna find yourself having somebody else to think for you. And then when you get incarcerated, you're gonna realize that people is still thinking for you because they're gonna tell you when to eat, sleep, use the bathroom, turn on the light. So you're gonna always have somebody thinking for you. So at the end of the day, you gotta remember you got a choice, right? And that choice is to use your mind, right? Right. That's what we say to a young person right now in today's time. So when you speak to them, they speak like their spirit is defeated, right? You don't see no fire in their eye. You can see the struggle in them. You can look in them in the eyes and but say looking at who you might be wearing or whatever the case be, you can look in their eyes and see that the spirit is defeated, right? And it starts with the household because the household is the first institution. So if the household is already single parent, which means it's broken, now you're already trying to grow up in an unbalanced house in a mother and father. So because now in a mother and father, now you already off balance. And say like I give a perfect example. My mother went to America when I was 5. He tried to replace her with a different woman because there was a lot of kids. So now for he to not sit down with us and explain the dynamics of what's going on, that's another piece that we put in our bag as far as what you get from your father, what you get from your mother. So now I find myself having a problem with staying with one woman subconsciously and not knowing where this is coming from.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So your home
has is the nucleus.
Right. So
Is there anything you would say that could, because crime really, the whole society needs to come together, to find solutions. But what would you want to say to those who make policy like governments and so on? Is there anything you want to say to them, if you could?
For people that involved in government and dealing with policy, right? Dealing with setting a blueprint with how people should live. They have to remember that it can't be personal. You can't be a Christian, and when you step in this chair, you decide that you're coming from a Christian view of how you're gonna make decisions to come to people to live. Because if you're coming from them kind of dynamics and you look at what's going on in society, past and present, it ain't working. The policies ain't working. It's like it's like going to see the doctor because of the lack of melanin or the over amount of melanin in your skin. You shouldn't be getting prescribed the same medication as a Chinese or a white person, for example, because of the amount of melanin you have in your skin. So it's the same thing when it comes to policies. If you're gonna put policies in place that is going to equally affect everybody. It can't be just one shoe fit all. It ain't
Interesting
working.
that they need to study. What are you doing with your what are you engaged in now? Are you an entrepreneur? How do you?
Well, yeah. Right now, I'm into entrepreneurship because at this point in my life, I don't really see the point of trying to work for other people when I can work for myself and better myself and better people around me. Today, I went to school. I was talking to the principal, other issues, but also we ended off on something along the same lines because what he was doing was trying to gather all the people that were in school back in the 80s so they could come together. We could put together some solutions for the school. So I'm always involved in something productive or positive as far as what they use the term giving back. Ain't really giving back because this is what naturally you're supposed to do. Every child is a black man's child. This stuff that you're supposed to do. This ain't like nobody got to pay you or you look for some kind of tap on your back as a black man. In today's time, it's on you to lead by example.
Right. So yeah, well, it's a pleasure talking to you, and I could see why they would, even in prison, they would want to talk with you. I think you should do a lot more school tours.
Wow. 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 I really wanted that entire video to play right through to the end because it's good to hear, and I hope the young men and some of the young people hear this in this show, to hear it from a person who has experienced jail time. And one of the things that he said that caught my attention, he said everyone has a choice. You have a choice. Years ago, we would tell you walk away. When people are confronting you, and in my days in school, they used to tell you things about your mother, and one of the most disrespectful things was to tell a school child something about his mother. What did we do? We turned and walked away. You know how many times I did that? They used to call my sister by a particular name, and the number of times I had to turn and walk away. Otherwise, I might very well be in Dodge too. You see, so it's very important, the choices that we make. I really appreciated that video, and I don't even need to add anything to what he has said. It is absolutely it's riveting to just listen to what he has to say, the aspect of styles of violence, the aspects of some people. I get the impression some people feel that it's weak to walk away, and he talks about this aspect of choice, the whole aspect of mindsets. I tell you, I really appreciated that mic on the move with Marcia with regards to that particular gentleman. But we've got to move on, and we want to thank Marcia so much. She's done a great job getting out there in the civil society, and being in the midst of everything. And maybe we're going to see her doing this more often in the future. But we want to welcome our first guest to the show tonight, John. Mr. John Knotts. You've been on the show before, John, and it's a pleasure for me particularly to welcome a fellow Arizonian on the show with me. And I understand you're going to be addressing this matter that we're dealing with as it refers to the Whole Town Civic Society and the water challenges that the development in that area can have with regards to the development, the sewage and the water concerns and so on. So please go right ahead, sir.
Thanks for having me, Ferdinand. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Let me see if I can explain now what's going on. Let me see. If I zoom in here, can you see that I've zoomed in?
Yes, we can. If you could make it a little bigger, if you want to zoom a little more, you can do that.
All right, I zoom in a little bit more. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the thing to realize with Barbados is that the water resources are limited. You can actually go and look at catchment area by catchment area and work out the actual area in acres and the amount of rainfall that is expected, and figure out how much water can be extracted downstream in the what is known as the sheep water area. So if you started up in the north, the Allendale catchment would be the first one that is good to go. That's about 1.65 million gallons a day. As it comes down, there are two others above it, Content and Bourbon, but neither of them produce enough water to make them worthwhile. Ashton Hall is the next one down. That's about 0.8 million gallons per day. Wim is 0.72. Haymans is 1. Carrollton is 1.25. Porters is 2.12. That's a big one. That has been taken. That was taken out. That's no longer available for public water supply because it is under Westmoreland Golf Course. That was supposed to have become available to the public water supply in 1996. That was the plan from 1978. But government figured, well, let's go for the high-end tourists. So we give permission for golf and high-end residences, and we will allocate this water there. So that's gone. That's a decision from government. So you're actually developing the land in a way that has never been developed before. That's right here. Trent has actually, I understand, stopped being used because a lot of Trent's catchment, the good part, the higher elevations, is up at Farmers Dam. And the Farmers Dam is being used to supply Apes Hill Golf Course, which is in the Porter's catchment. So that is 2.85, getting up to almost 3 million gallons of water a day have gone. Molyneux, that's Sandy Lane. I understand that Codrington, which is in St. Michael, that is no longer being used because the amount of development nearby makes it probably unsafe. That's what I'm told. And the source I got that from is pretty reliable for me. As you can see, the big volumes are from Newmarket, Waterford, Applewhite, Sweetville, Bell. Bell is 7.29 and 7 and 5 is 12 million gallons a day from Bell. And Hampton is 5 and 2 is 7.5, 10 million gallons, 12.5 million gallons a day. Bowmanston, Martin St. John is 1.7 million. Ragged Point is not used as far as I know. And Codrington, I believe, has been taken out. There's a lot of development in the area. So it's probably not safe to use that spring source. So if you were to look at it now on a map, because I like my maps. Let's go back here a minute. Oh boy, here it is. So this is what when you think about water in Barbados, this is what's available. This is the blue area here is what is known as the sheet water area, the freshwater lens. So as the rain falls in the higher elevations, it percolates through the coral, goes down to what's known as oceanics, and flows down to the sea. But the sea is also trying to get into the coral. So the sea goes in as far as it can up to sea level, but it's under the coral. So the sea is in here, and the fresh water is going down here. So what happens is that fresh water floats on top of seawater. So you end up with what is known as a freshwater lens from which you extract water for the island. So here are the pumping stations and the various catchment areas. Here's Allendale, Ashton Hall, Wim is in here, Haymans, I didn't label it, Carrollton, Porters, Trents, Molyneux, Norwood. Claremont, there's nothing really but there at all. But the big catchment areas are obviously the St. Michael catchment north, and that would supply Bell and Newmarket and Applewhite. This is Bell, this is Newmarket, Applewhite. This is Waterford, Codrington area here. And I think you've lost out this because of the development. And the St. Philip's North would supply Hampton, which is down here. This would be Bowmanston up here. That's on a stream. So is Appowitz. So is out here is Sweet Vale. Out here is there's a stream underground, from which water is extracted. But obviously, the bulk of the water resource is down here, and it has mostly been allocated already. And a lot of the water sources have been lost to development. Yes, we love tourism. We would like to see as much as possible, but there is a limit, and I think it's fair to say that we have reached a limit. These two sources out here, this is the Bend Spring up in Newcastle Woods. That was the first water supply. They actually brought a pipe all down through, it's in George Valley to Bridgetown. And this other one here, so it's at Codrington. I think that is actually out of service. Could be wrong, but I think that's out of service. If you actually look at the development that has occurred, let's take, for example, down here in this area, and look at this, right? Here is, let's see what this is here. Going in a little bit closer. Harvestal. So this is 1982. So let's put on the 19 oh shoot. Let's put on this graph here, this map here. Turn off that map. So if you have the pumping station here, you can see that this is the zone 1 area here around these wells. I think I did a little bit of this already. Let's see. This is the zone 1 area around the wells. So this would be Bell here, and this would be out here, so it would be Codrington. But as you can see that there's encroachment here into zone 1. And I mean, this is the geriatric hospital. They built it in what is zone 1 area, but they've changed up the zoning now, probably to accommodate that. But you can see there's a lot of development has taken place. If I went back into 1951 and turned on the map sheets that were there, let me see, sorry, turn on the aerial photos that were there in 1951. I don't have, yeah, there they are. Here's the Bell. Here's Codrington. Not much development. All of this is agricultural land, the fields and whatnot. So this basically is under pressure. This is where the geriatric hospital has been placed. So you're losing water sources from the 90s because of decisions to go for the high-end tourists, and at the same time you're threatening the existing ones, and these are the big ones. These are really big supplies. This one here. So if you lose this, we are through the others. If you come up here, and look here, this is a new market. Here, 1991. Let me turn off those rows. So you can see this is constant and so on, a constant area. Up in here, I think they're talking about doing developments up in here too. If you come up here to St. Philip and look at Hampton, you can see 6 roads is, well, the flow of water, the natural flow is like this way out to the sea. But as you can see, this is a lot of development going on here. and here, right? So I don't have the zone 1 drawn on there, but I can give you, yeah, this is this fuzzy part here is zone 2. I think this is zone 1 here. So let me turn off that for the moment, and you can see that out here. So you're into zone 2. Getting close, but you see,
Wow.
the whole pressure is build more houses, build more houses, build more houses. But to me, we passed the point where construction became almost a dead-end economic activity. It doesn't make sense. So if you go back now to Whole Town, you've taken out all of those sources along the West Coast, like porters and so on. We lost about 5 million gallons a day from those sources disappearing or not being used, but we gained 7 million from the water purification plant at Spring Garden. So that water is what supplies a lot of up there. So when you start now to put a hotel with, well, I don't know how many, it's a 9-story hotel. I don't know how many rooms is anticipated to be there. But if you start zooming in here and looking at what has actually happened with development in the area, right? This was Trent's pumping station there. So you want to actually, I suppose this is the area that you're looking to develop down in this area and up in, I guess, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't looked at it too closely. But if you look upstream, you got another problem. This is the Hope development, the one that has
The
all sorts of
controversial
possible,
Yeah.
not much. So this is actually now not far from here. So Trent is actually, I think, taken out because what has happened is this is the Rayside Quarry in that catchment area. When you come here, this is the dam, the Farmer's Dam. So all of this is the higher elevation. This produces the water. This water here goes into this gully. The gully, sometimes I've walked in that gully and there's this constant stream going down. There's also one at the Spring Gully that goes down and joins a little further down, comes out in the hole. But sometimes this gully is dry when you have real drought. But obviously, if you have the water dammed up here, it's not going to go down here. It won't go underground, and it won't go underground to supply the pumping station at Trent's. So Trent's, I think, is out for that reason. The Porter's catchment, if you go and look and see what's happening in Porter's, golf all around here, right? Development of houses. If you came back to 1951 and look and see what it looked like in 1951, you can see that there's a huge development that has occurred, right?
Yes.
Huge, absolutely huge. So let me just see if I can take off these catchment boundaries. Let me see. No, that's not what I want. I want this one, sheet water. It's clearer there. So all of this is now housing. So if you go back, if you look at and see what it looks like now, and compare it with what it was in 1951, you can see there's a huge difference, right?
Oh yes.
So the point I'm making, is that a hotel is not a concentrated use of water like a hotel is not a sensible thing to contemplate. Just as you could argue that golf course was not really a sensible thing to contemplate. Yes, you may get a lot of land taxes and whatnot, but the problem now is that you start to put pressure on the other water supply sources that are supposed to supply the rest of the island. So if you look at, for example, the Allendale one up here, that is the one that one supplies St. Lucie, and St. Lucie has its problems, as you know.
Yes.
You can see like this is the Allendale pumping station here, and this is development mile and a quarter and so on, starting to encroach into the zone one. So they modify the zoning now and say, but the problem is that there's sediment that is getting into the underground flow and going to the well from the development, from whatever. I don't know what, I don't know if it's actually dammed the gully and I've got and are forcing the water that comes down in the gully on the surface into the ground. And it's, if you were actually to work out the flow lines in that area, you can see like underground. These are what happens. This is what happens underground, according to my calculations. This is if water could go down here, it would end up coming down to the pumping station in this area, or at least the sheet water area, and it would be taken out at the pumping station. So what you're doing is you're now having to think about how do you get more water. You can increase the capacity, I suppose, on Spring Garden, but there's a limit. So the other issue now is that if you've got a hotel that consumes a whole lot of water, it's going to produce a whole lot of sewage. Now, a lot of hotels actually have package plants, and they work. So there's a way that you can actually treat the sewage, but somehow something is going in the sea. Whether it's treated, untreated, and the problem is that I've seen, like in the 80s, I saw like hotels where the sewage plants were not maintained, so there was a big issue. So all sorts. So to me, it's just that I think we're reaching a limit, and we should listen to what, or at least understand what we're seeing. There are some areas of Barbados that cannot get water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It cannot, and to choose a development, quite apart from the heritage aspect, right? Quite apart from that, we just cannot afford it. You haven't got enough money in the bank account basically to pay for it. So as the old time people would tell you, if you can't pay, don't go. So that is my 2 cents worth on development of hotels. The same argument applies to Hyatt. I mean, right now I shudder to think about when you look at Sam Lord's Castle and the huge development that's happened up there. I shudder to think how we are going to supply water. But the decision was made, and that is done. So if we get a problem, we got to take it from somewhere. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on sewage and water.
I see a couple of questions coming up in the chat, John. I don't know if you can address them. I'm just going to try to pull up one I saw a few minutes ago, where someone was asking concerning. Just let me try and find it here. I don't know if you could locate it, Dave. That one, I think it was from Easy D. Easy D asks John a question. Just let me see if I can pull that one up. Yeah, this one, John, he asks, from your analysis, we need a completely new drainage and water collection system across the island. This will cost billions, a good investment, and it's needed. You mentioned the desalination plant at Spring Garden, but can this challenge in terms of the supply of water, John, be provided for with the increase in the number of desalination plants?
Well, People call it a desalination plant, but it really isn't a desalination plant. It actually polishes brackish water. It's a lot cheaper to do that. If you want to use seawater, that would be ideal. I mean, there's an unlimited amount of water in the sea, but the problem is it's far more costly to do that than to polish or purify. No, I wouldn't say purify, but remove impurities from the brackish water. So that it depends. You need an economic activity that can support true desalination before we can get out of this thing. So like, for example, it doesn't make sense. You can't really make a brand new water collection system. It just can't do it. You can't do it. The best you could do is, if you are really making money, the best you could do is use the seawater and desalinate it. But you have to be making a lot of money, because it doesn't make financial or economic sense. Wouldn't the brackish water that's being used for desalination be contaminated by the massive development around that area?
Around the area.
Yes, let me show you. Boys. If I tell no, I won't tell you my theory wrong here. Let me see down here. So where is the desal plant? Here is the Deepwater Harbor. So here is the Spring Garden Highway. So let's look in a little bit and see where this desal plant is. The desal plant would probably be these two.
Close to the Spring Garden Foods.
Tanks. Those two tanks probably. These are the warehouses.
Yeah,
these are the warehouses with the solar power panels on this Carrollton cricket ground. So this is Spring Garden. All right. Now clearly you can't put a zone 1 area around this source, because look at what's happening. This is absolute crazy. I mean, if there's a problem in the manufacturing of the purification of the water here, obviously a lot of crap is going to get out. I think if you look and see what's happened in England, all of their rivers are contaminated with sewage, all of them, or at least almost all. So they have. If my theory was that COVID was also waterborne, and it was an urban disease. To be able to have this amount of urban development, you have to be able to make the water. You have to be able to reprocess water, and if you start with water that is really contaminated, yes, the technology might be there. You can get it pretty good and whatnot, but you just have to make a little slip. Something needs to go around in the manufacturing process, and you can produce a whole lot of contaminant that gets into the water line, and that. So I was noticing. No, I won't go that way. I won't go that way. But the point is that yes, for sure. There's no way this cannot be. This has to be getting all sorts of sewage and whatnot coming down from all these houses. Has to be, if the pumps are in this area. It just is a testament to how well the process works that there may not have been a problem. But maybe some of the times when things, if you go and look in England, every now and again you see in England that there's a problem with this virus or that virus. Things seem to be falling apart in England. Here, I don't know. It would be interesting to know the water from this desal plant or purification plant supply the areas that were mostly affected by COVID, because just look at common sense tells you that, you know, these are going to have an effect on the output, the quality of the water going to that plant, and that's the output.
Right, right. But you know, John, there's another development schedule. Remember where Shafet was in St. James? Isn't there
Yes,
supposed to be another development schedule for there as well?
I understand that there is, but the thing is that they've been talking about that for so long. Maybe it's supposed to happen very shortly, but it's the same principle. If you actually the more demand you put on the supply, which is limited, the more likely that you will have a problem. So it's just like you're just asking to be shot.
Well, pardon me asking a stupid question, but when government sits down to approve developments of this nature, don't they engage the so-called experts relative to the water sources in Barbados to see or to address all of these issues we are discussing here? Aren't these things taken into consideration when development permissions are granted?
They should be, but you can find like Archcott. Archcott, I found in 1966, the town planner gave somebody wanted to develop on top of the cave. And he said, you can have development on top of the cliff, but it must not be on top of the cave. However, somebody got permission and built on top of the cave. And we all know what happened. So somebody had to override the town planner to be able to get for that person to be able to build a house up there. And it was done in the it would have to have been Tom Adams. The Prime Minister is the only person who can do that, or at the time was the only person who could do that. So I think that what happens is that the politicians are so oppressed. We have a society that they have to get money from somewhere, and they're willing to take a risk. They're willing to poo-poo somebody, telling them, a technical person telling them, this is a problem, it can't work. Look at Greenland landfill. I was involved in that with Richard Goddard. The decision, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, because we only have about a minute left, but I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned about the sewage going into the sea. How does this then impact our coastal zone areas? You know, that entire area, because my brother managed the NCC, NCF or NCC from Folkestone all the way back to the Bridgetown port several years ago, and it's supposed to be a protected area. But doesn't that have an impact then on the environment of the sea in that area?
Yes, it does. And I'll tell from my personal. I haven't been in the sea on the West Coast from I honestly really understood how things were working. I stopped going in the sea down there from the 1980s. I stopped going in the sea on the South Coast from the 1990s. I have a friend who was an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and I started to tell him this. He said, "Don't tell me anymore. Most of my practice is dealing with tourists who present with painful ear infections, and the first thing I ask is, did you bathe at Bronx Beach?" Yes. So it's a known. It happens, right? There's another tourist I met on the hikes that told me the antidote. What you have to do is to get some brandy and put it in your ears before you go to sea. That's it. So we have a problem. We don't face the problem. So we never solve the problem because we don't face the problem. So it's not a nice problem, but It's our problem. So, different people, those who love the sea will go in regardless. And those who, you know, believe the sea don't have a back door won't go in. And those who believe, that sea isn't too healthy to go in won't go in. But always there will be somebody who goes in. Because it's so lovely to look at. I love it. I love to look at it. I used to go in the sea, but no,
Yes.
no more.
Yeah, there's a question there. The person said they would also like to ask whether you know anything about the surface water runoff or groundwater flow on the island.
Yeah, well, when it rains heavily, the water, like I've seen, don't have a picture to hand, but I've stood up on through the bridge and looked at the Constitution River flowing all up to the prison, all up behind the prison, a constant
Yes.
river coming down there, going into
Uh-huh.
Bridgetown. I've seen that. When it
Wow.
was used to hike a lot to find out more about how the water flow worked. I
Uh-huh.
used to every time there was heavy rain, I used to go driving, and I would go and stop on the bridges. I would stop on the Portville Blowers Bridge, then the Lancaster Bridge, then the other bridges along the highway,
Hmm.
the ABC, the Highway 2A, and look down and watch the torrents of water coming down.
Right, right.
Hiking Sunday mornings, I've hiked from Hammond's, and I've had to cross. The group has had to cross the gully by a mile and a quarter. The water was up to my chest. So yes, the
Yes,
water
yes, does run
runs
off.
off. Right
Yeah,
when there's heavy rain, it runs off. But
yeah, yeah.
the problem is, I think if they're trying to get underground down there,
Hmm.
it might impact the. It might be one of the reasons that the sediment is getting into the water.
Into the
Out
ocean.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, but John, we're gonna have a
Okay.
call-in session between 9 and 10 o'clock. I
I'll
don't
be
know if
here.
you'll have the time to hang around.
Yes, I will.
And,
I will.
and have some, maybe some answer some questions during that time. We're going to encourage the people to call in, but I want to move into the next segments. I want to thank you so very much. I mean, this has been tremendously educational, even for me, I can tell you. And I'd like to ask you. I won't keep you in studio, but I'd like to ask if you stay around. I mean, it's
I'll stay
entirely up
around.
to you. And so that when we're doing that segment in between 9 and 10, if there are any questions, you'll be there to
Yeah,
answer
I'll do
those
that. I'll
questions. All
do that.
right.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
You're
God
welcome.
bless. Just
You.
stay there. Yeah. It's such a pleasure as well. Now we want to move into the next segment. I want to welcome my good colleague and former Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Tourism, Mr. Richard Seeley. Sir, it was such a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. I heard some comments you were making on radio, and I am looking forward to the session. To what you have to share with us, with your concerns with the balance, if I can call it that, the balance between tourism development and our heritage. Because that's enshrined in the national anthem, strict guardians of our heritage. So, welcome, sir. Pleasure to have you joining us tonight.
Well, thank you, Ferdy. I think I could call you that.
Yes, absolutely. I will hold my respect
Uh,
for you nevertheless as
yeah,
sir and
yeah, yeah. Well, I just one fairly minor correction. It's the former Minister of Tourism and International Transport. But
thank
again, I
thank you for
people
let,
it
let me
doesn't
write
really.
that
I
down.
mean, these things don't matter. Yeah, I never had. Other people have accorded me various titles because of tasks that I may have had during the course
Yes,
of my time in government. But that was the title that I had.
yes.
But at
Okay,
any
okay.
rate, it's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, I'm leaving it wide open for you to share what is on your mind. As I said, I heard some of your comments made on radio with regards to some of the things that are happening on our west coast. I found it very
Uh
interesting, and
huh.
it's I'm intrigued to hear. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I basically was specifically on this issue of the proposed development in the whole town area in
Hmm.
the relocating what is presently in the public buildings and so on, the Civic Center, across the street, and little slightly further north to another location.
Hmm.
It's 20 acres. It's supposed to be an expanded facility. And I guess the gist of what I was saying, and it's how I genuinely feel. I I would find it a little difficult to simply oppose something and not knowing exactly what is being proposed.
Hmm.
Details have been sketchy.
Hmm.
And if we have to be fair, it was back in 2023 that we were told by the government about these plans for Holtown, St. Anne's Fort. I think it was the Oystins courts as well. I think we were told of the direction that they were going in with these public sector lands, that it was felt that there was alternative use, tourism development, basically. And as Simon and Garfunkel talked about the sound of silence that has
Uh-huh.
typified our behavior since 2018. So it's nice to see that 2 years later, now that the rubber is about to hit the road, that everybody is found their voice and is speaking out. Um, I I would imagine, and I don't know, that whatever is proposed for the historic location, the current location of the Civic Center, would preserve the heritage of the area. I think that was the point that I was making. Again, all we were told was a hotel. A hotel could mean anything. There's nothing wrong with the area, with the historic buildings, and for example, the monument that is there. That could easily form what the architects would call a pièce de résistance, and you could leave it and even enhance it in the context of a proposed tourism development. Again, to what extent that might be possible, because if government is putting the land into the arrangement, they have considerable influence and can dictate what should remain and what has to happen. I'm all for protecting the monument, and I don't know if it came up before I tuned in, but back in 2017, when I was still in government, the Massey Group actually spent $80,000 refurbishing the whole town monument. It was in a ridiculous state of disrepair for a very, very, very long time.
Yes.
Happy to see people like the National Trust are now speaking out, because I don't know what was going on back then when this was supposed to be sacred land. First time English settlers, not the first settlers. People were in Barbados before then. The
Yeah.
olive blossom didn't bring the first people to Barbados. But having said that, the Massey saw it was part of their public spirited initiative. Of course, they happened to have a very large, large establishment across the street, the
Hmm.
supermarket and plaza. And it was. I remember the event very well. Frere Delmas was still at the time. I think he may have retired by now. Dennis was the Minister of Housing, Dennis Kelman, that is, and myself, and right, yeah, there you see those two, the two cannons and so on, and
Yeah.
that lovely refurbished with some landscaping, some softscape. The monument looked nothing like that prior to
That's right.
2017.
Hmm.
It was in a terrible state of disrepair. So whatever is proposed, I would hope that it could preserve that. I'm not going to accept that you have to remove all of that because you are putting a hotel there. We seem, or should I even, this government seems to want to make Barbados into another Miami, and that's not the answer. We can have our own style, um, and our accommodation properties, and indeed all of our tourism projects can reflect that, and not necessarily trying to replicate what you may see on South Beach in Miami or in certain other highly intense tourism jurisdictions. So I think you can preserve it, you can get the balance, and I'm satisfied that that can be achieved. it is also worth mentioning something else. Now, this government's track record for promoting private sector hotel development is not terribly good. They've been in office since 2018. It's 2025, and I mean, interesting. Projects that apparently needed a new government still haven't gone anywhere. Um, so are we going to go tampering with our heritage to have something just wonderfully hoarded up for years? Just south of that site, you have, as a matter of interest, you where Chefette was once located is
Yeah,
just
I
a
asked about
huge
that.
open lot. Um,
Yes,
and
yes.
so here it is. The government is asked to give up land to develop to the private sector, and private sector has land that still needs to be developed. I remember a little bit about that site because we were told that these English developers with these very deep pockets were going to develop that land, and nothing has happened. And
Yep, I
so
remember
are we
that.
going to see a repeat of that sort of thing? I mean, the Hyatt went through its incarnations, but I mean, it seems to be finally getting a start now, and we will see how that goes. But we this pattern of promising and not delivering, and we certainly wouldn't want to see that site be, fall into a similar pattern. Um, so that is a natural concern that I have. I don't think that, for example, during the COVID period, etc., and even before and after, we have really been able to see the kind of investment in the sector that we would have liked. We are now seeing some,
Mhm.
um, but the truth is that had we been a little more deliberate and aggressive and focused on that, I feel that we would be a lot better off as a country. We won't be talking about $3 billion in reserves and 2/3 of it borrowed. We could be talking about maybe slightly less reserves, but you know, 2/3 of it earned. Yeah, but
Yes,
we
yes,
just
I
don't
agree.
have the capacity. And we're now scrambling around now and trying to get hotel rooms all over the place. And then we hear contractors complaining the labor shortages and other capacity issues that are only negatively impacting the quality of life in Barbados. I mean, the economy is the country. I mean, the inflation, and it isn't that central bank governor. I don't understand what he's what is 1.4%. I don't know where he's living, but he obviously doesn't go to the supermarket. Because there's no way you could tell me the inflation rate in Barbados
No
is
way.
1.4%. You get up
No
and
way.
say that with a straight face. You haven't
No.
been going in the supermarket, the markets. You haven't gone in the hardware store. You're not living in Barbados. So but again, all of that comes from a lack of adequate economic planning and this helter skelter thing that we're going through now, because basically we haven't planned at the macroeconomic level in a sensible manner. But that is where I see it on this issue. As I said, I would believe the devil is in the detail, and we will await those details, and then we go from there. Now, there are a few broader points that I could make on this issue of our heritage, and again, I called out the National Trust. Happy to hear from them because it really doesn't start with the whole town monuments. I mean, in 2011, we had a phenomenal win, that is Barbados, when UNESCO agreed
For
and
sure.
accepted our application, um, and it was a lot of work went into it and a lot of money too. I mean, for the tourism budget alone, I think the figure of $250,000 is because you have to get people to help you put together this application, and you have to make a case to UNESCO. It's not easy. You're
Yeah.
competing against applications from all over the world, literally. And UNESCO agreed that historic Bridgetown and its garrison can receive a UNESCO inscription. And the whole point of tourism, even Ministry of Culture was the like ministry and led it, but the funds that were invested from tourism, because it was always seen as something that would have a lot of potential in terms of heritage tourism.
Mhm.
There was the World Heritage Committee, which was a requirement. Having received the inscription, you have to set up a cross-functional committee. So it had tourism, it had cultural people, they had the curators from the museum, the town planning department, because remember, Bridgetown is a lived city. It's not like Brimstone Hill and St. Kitts. I mean, they haven't had a soldier in that fort now in 300 years, but Bridgetown is a lived city.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and UNESCO doesn't have a problem again with development and heritage. And this brings me back again to what is proposed for Whole Town. It is possible that you can have both. You can have your hotel development, you can have a mini city center and still preserve your heritage, but it will have to be done in a sensitive way. And it could possibly even enhance the whole thing. And I believe that again, if the right thinking goes into it, that we could achieve it. We've seen evidence time and time again of not a lot of thought going beyond a PR exercise in this government, and I hope that in this case they will be again be sensitive to all of those concerns. I have no doubt that it will happen. I mean, right now the debate will go on and on and on. And I suppose then the prime minister will ride in on our white horse and save the day. But we will. That's the usual MO for these things. But again, I hope that we are able to get the uh, to get the balance right, and we can go from here. Go from there.
Mr. Seeley, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking as I look, first of all, at Whole Tongue, I don't know a lot about the Civic Center, I must confess. I do know a lot about the monument of which you spoke. And I mean, as a child growing up, I know exactly what you were talking about because I watched that monument. I would have to say from a child go into disrepair and then be refurbished to what it is today. I watched that coming up as a child because I lived in Boscobel. So, my bus would
Mhm.
pass there every day, carry me to
Mhm.
school and bringing me back home. You know that. So,
Mhm.
but I don't know much about the Civic Center. I understood from someone I heard speaking that the police station has only been there for 25 years. And I don't have a problem in terms of the police station, but could you enlighten us a little bit more on, I'm not sure, what information you'll have as it relates to the Civic Center itself.
Mhm.
We know the olive blossom, and I endorse what you say because people think that the first inhabitants here were the English. They weren't. My wife is a
Mhm.
former Amerindian. She's
Mhm.
descended from Amerindians that lived in Barbados. She knows about them and in St. Lucia. So, how does the Civic Center feed into that whole aspect?
As I understand it, apart from the olive blossom and the first landfall, the the English had set up a military base, some sort of again civic center. So the buildings and so on that are some of the buildings, and more importantly, the real estate carries a lot of historical significance.
Right,
And
right.
I think that is the point that the National Trust and some of the historians and so have been driving at,
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
can't ignore it. I also seem to recall it was one of the reasons that Massey, apart from the monument, the real estate around there and what it means is significant.
Hmm.
And it was a, yeah, I think there was a court there as well too. But from the early days, it was for lack of a better word, the first major settlement in Barbados.
Right, right,
I think
right.
that is what has people up in arms, and rightly so. I'm not going to suggest that just because I happen to feel we can get balance that we should ignore those things. I think we should embrace them,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it could. it could. I mean, I know you are a well-traveled man, so I'm certain if you haven't seen Old San Juan, you would have seen Old Havana, or you would have probably seen Old Panama City, St. Augustine, Florida, another very, very old city where they have preserved Cartagena in Colombia. I mean, they preserved the traditional city. And it's so funny. In fact, in the case of Old San Juan, it's almost a little offensive. You have these old buildings and then a McDonald's here and a Radio Shack there. We don't have to necessarily go that far, but
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
believe that you can embrace the historical component with modern needs,
Mhm,
because we need the room stock. I mean, we need to expand this thing in a sustainable way, and not this piecemeal thing that's going on.
mhm, mhm.
We're down 2% in out of the UK. I mean, well, other parts of the Caribbean are up. Um, that I mean that's just not on for Barbados. No, not
Yeah.
our major source market where we are loved. And so, but again, new interesting plant, new plant that even embrace the heritage component. I could see a hotel on that spot for obvious reasons appealing to the English. You know, so 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 I'm just saying that we got some work to do, some serious work
Yeah,
to do.
yeah. How we can incorporate our heritage with the more modern construction in terms of that. Yeah,
Mhm.
you talk about me being well traveled. Two of the islands in the Caribbean I've absolutely enjoyed being in, has been Grenada and Saint Lucia. I
Mhm.
walked through their city, and through their town, St. Castries, and Grenada is can't remember now.
St.
Um,
George's,
St. George's. And one of
where
the
the
things
where
I've
the
I've, I've
carronade, very
always,
picturesque. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. I've
Mhm.
I've just been I just marveled at how they have maintained some of the old buildings there in full use, yeah. But they've maintained that old historic appearance and so forth. And I'm looking. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but in thinking of the garrison and all those buildings in that area, didn't they import the stone that those buildings were constructed with? Didn't I hear that somewhere in my history? All of that red stone that was used for the construction.
A lot of that, there were the ballast bricks in the ships.
Hmm.
Um, and because Barbados was the first landfall over the Atlantic, it was a very active shipping port.
Hmm.
Ships chandlery and so on. Ships would stop here on their way to other parts of the Western Hemisphere. The Bridgetown was as active. I think it was up there with Boston and New York and so on. So
Right,
active
right.
was the where was the port of Bridgetown. Um, and I think that a lot of those bricks, yes, would have come in, and they're not at all made from any native material. It would have been the ballast bricks and so that would have come on the ships, definitely.
And I mean, you wouldn't even find them. I doubt you'll find them anywhere in the world today to do any of that type of thing.
No.
And I'm just thinking, with what we're hearing concerning that entire area, all the way down through Bay Street, it's like we are well, for the sake of a better expression, selling out all of our heritage,
Mhm.
in the name of development and in the name of tourism. I mean, not that we are against development. It would be lovely to
Mhm.
see, and I see some of them happening as I drive through Bay Street. I see some of those older buildings being refurbished and in use.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, can't we do a type of the development that blends the historical aspect with the more modern stuff?
We definitely can, and this is where we should actually be in an advantageous position.
Hmm.
We have the World Heritage Committee in place already.
Right.
I mean, I think it was chaired by the chief town planner, if I'm not mistaken. But it was something that was a requirement, and we had even done the trainer workshops where we train people to do tours and that sort of thing, and a lot of education went into it, and we could easily take that blueprint and use it. For example, Spikes Down, tons of potential
Yes.
from a heritage
Yes.
point of view.
Yes.
Um, and I've heard a lot of it lost too. I mean, much
Yeah.
of it lost and would probably have to be recreated. And I see that, and I hope one of the legacies of this, regathering thing there in Speightstown, February, that maybe, sorry, they're in St. Peter, and I hope that they had a Speightstown Alive and Speightstown City, and all those things, the product development came with years ago, but they're now reviving them, and that's good. It's good to see that the new government can see the initiatives started by the last government were not all a waste of time, and they're using them, and that's great, and I mean that
Yeah. Well,
because
it's for the country.
Speightstown is wonderful. I mean, I do believe that. I mean, it's not unheard of that perhaps we can get an application going again there was for Spikes Down as to be potentially inscribed by UNESCO. I think the story of sugar was one, and looking at well, again, we've lost a lot of the factories and so on, and the windmills. But I'm driving at the point where what you're speaking of, we have some ingredients that are there already, and
Hmm.
people who basically know what to do and how to do. Don't underestimate the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, and the same National Trust and the like, where the passion and the knowledge of these things are, and yes, it should be properly integrated into our tourism product offering because it's definitely something that visitors are interested in doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would become one of the unique and peculiar things of Barbados. I mean, because when you look at the islands of the Caribbean, if you're talking sea and sand, I mean, there's almost every island in the Caribbean can offer that,
Exactly.
but then each island has its unique characteristics. Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, they all have the unique characteristics. We are one of the flatter islands. I
Hmm.
enjoy St. Vincent and Grenada and St. Lucia because of the mountainous aspects and so on. I find that absolutely intriguing. But Barbados, while it might be a flatter country, has its own attractions. We have the Harrison's
Hmm.
Cave. I don't think there's another
Yeah.
island in the Caribbean with that. I'm not aware that there is.
Hmm.
I stand to be corrected, but we have something like that that's unique for us. And I really believe that if we can find a balance in terms of the architectural designs and the architectural look that can blend the two together, because a modern hotel doesn't necessarily have to look all that modern on the outside, if you follow what I'm saying, but it could be modern
Exactly.
with its amenities, while it has that that antiquish looking kind of appearance on the outside, which is being lost rapidly across the world. One of the things I admired about Europe, and I'm sure you've been to Europe yourself.
Hmm.
You go into places like Germany and Italy and all these places, and you see, I mean, they're massive tourism areas, and you see a lot of their old buildings in full use, but
Hmm. Yeah.
integrated within the modern technological aspect.
Yeah, yeah. Those European cities, good example of that. I mean, you left out London for some reason, which we're
I,
good.
I
I
don't
mean,
spend a
but
lot of I don't spend a lot of time
oh,
in London.
oh,
I generally pass
well,
through.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're bringing it closer. Well, okay, we can stay in Europe and come closer to home. Williamstad, Curacao is a good example.
Yes.
I mean, and by the way, it also has a UNESCO inscription. I mean, these wonderful facades and so on that have been preserved, but you
Yes.
walk into any of those buildings, I mean, it is all the modern accoutrements. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can do that. You can do that, and we can do that.
Well,
Um,
I
I
want
mean,
all of you, all of our guests to know, all of our listeners really to know that you can give us a call at 236-7000. Minister, the former Minister of Tourism and International transport. Let me make sure I get this correct. I get this correct. Is here. You're quite willing to take your questions. If there are any questions as well from Mr. Knotts, we'll have him back in. But this is the opportunity that you have, those of you that are viewing tonight, to call in for any questions or your contributions to make as it relates to what we're discussing in this instance. Of course, we're looking at I would have to say the entire West Coast development. I've mentioned already here on the show, and I don't know, is it okay if I call you Richard? Is that all
Please
right?
do.
Thank
Well,
you
I
very
didn't
much.
call you. I
You
didn't
didn't
call
call me
you
Reverend Nichols,
Doctor
you called me Ferdinand.
Nichols or Reverend. Yeah, I called you. I called you Ferdy. Frida's
Yes,
brother. I didn't do
yes,
that. But
yes. Um,
no, no, no. Yeah.
for a long time, long
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. Mhm.
We've talked a lot about, I travel down the West Coast, and I must tell you, Richard, I'm shocked that I can't see the sea. I used to be able, as I told you, I traveled that entire West Coast regularly as a child from Boscobel to Bridgetown to Harrison
Mhm.
College back
Mhm.
to Boscobel.
Yeah.
And boy, I am heart broken when I go down to the West Coast now, and I can hardly see the sea. So
Mhm.
if you have questions or you have any contributions to make, 236-7000, and we'll just continue our discussion and await your calls. I'll get a notification as soon as those calls come in, and we'll go to the phone line as soon as I get a notification with it. In terms of you mentioned a decline. I think it was a 2.1% decline in
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
tourism uh, aspects. I think it is.
Out
Um,
out of the UK, that
mhm.
was came out of the report from the central bank governor.
Okay, okay.
But interestingly enough, I mean since they have stopped using physical ED cards, they've been having some challenges getting
Mhm.
accurate statistics.
Right,
The
right.
immigration department still doesn't have the right system to collect this information, and my information is that there was a proposal for them to get this equipment, but it
Mhm.
hasn't been forthcoming yet. This is going 5 or 6 years. So
Wow, wow.
so
We have
so the information is not as accurate as it used to be, but
right.
nevertheless, we are certainly rebounded from COVID,
Mhm.
even though overall the numbers are not like pre-COVID
Pre-COVID.
levels.
Yes, yes.
No, they're not. Even though you might hear something a little different from some government sources,
Yeah.
but
But
anybody with eyes to see can see that too. So I
we have a caller on the line. So go ahead,
mean.
caller. We'll listen. We're listening to you. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Hello.
Need a little more volume. If we can get a little more volume.
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Very, very softly. Don't know if we can, Dave. I don't know if you can get that volume up a bit for us.
Sorry, my phone is very old. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can.
You go ahead, caller. We'll try to hear.
Okay. Hello. I've got a group together to try and save Gibbs Gully, which is the gully between Mullins and Gibbs, which is a very integral water course that actually funnels the water from the eastern ridge, from up as far as Black Death and the rest of the sort of eastern ridge across the sort of north of the island. The problem is that they're trying to now develop it. The government, Town and Country Planning, gave planning permission some years ago for the watercourse to be built on, and we're fighting against that because it's a very important ecosystem. The water comes down, drains down into Gibbs Bay, and there is actually a reef of Gibbs Bay which needs to be saved. It will kill the reef if the water isn't filtered through the soil and the tree roots. It will kill wildlife in the sea, but also we have an ecosystem in the gully that needs to be preserved. The gully actually holds the last remaining Barbados thread snake, and which is in peril, in danger of being thrown into extinction if we don't actually save it. So it's not just the fact that we need to save the gully from being completely destroyed by the concrete over, but also we need to keep the water course going. And if they actually turn that into a reservoir rather than trying to build houses on it, we could actually provide decent water for the west coast.
And the area you said is which one?
I'm trying to speak slowly so you can understand.
And the area again, what was the area?
It's called Gibbs Gully, and it's between Mullins to the north and the Gibbs to the south.
Okay, Gibbs Gully.
Does the sound better? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the sound is a bit better. I'm going to bring Mr. Knotts in. Mr. Knotts, did you hear the contribution from that caller?
Yeah, I'm trying to locate it exactly on the map to see where that is. Let me see. It's Mullins Bay, and okay, got Mullins Bay there. So let me see if we can get this other map on 51. Turn off 82. All right, so Mullins Bay. There's a gully going up from Gibbs Beach, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes according to this map. It's going up into Baker's area. Yeah, I see it. I see it.
It goes up between Mullins and Gibbs. Yes, it's a very deep gully. It goes right the way up the ridge. And it's absolutely flooded, gushes with water. It would be the perfect position for a new reservoir that could feed the whole of the west coast.
No, it's not. That's not going to work. Let me tell you why it's not going to work. First of all, the rock in the gully is porous, so you cannot. It's not going to. You cannot store water in it. The gully is going to is just basically a gutter, if you like, that brings the water to the sea on the surface. So if you dam that gully, it's going to end up draining out because the coral is completely porous. So in fact, if you actually don't want to get water with sediment and so on into the freshwater lands, because then it could affect. Now let me see what pumping stations are close by. We got one at Carrollton, and one at the Wim, and one at Hammond's, I think. So they're higher up than the gully that you're talking about, close to the sea. But the point is, a gully is not going to store water because it's porous. It's actually cracked, fissured. You would have to cast concrete. It wouldn't. I don't think it would work for actually storage.
Right.
People. The point is, you want to try and you would like to get the water underground, but you wouldn't like to get it underground with sediment in it. So it's a good idea, but it's not going to work. It's going to have problems.
At the moment, the water just comes down. It's fresh water, and it runs straight into the sea. And I understand what you're saying there. But if it is developed into housing and concreted over, which is the proposition at the moment, it does mean that the whole area will flood. We will lose a big ecosystem. That the water won't be actually drained through the soil and the tree roots that goes into Gibbs Bay, which will destroy the reef. So there's a huge impact on the ecosystem because if this water is not drained naturally and properly. It also, as I said, has also we have also animals and species that are very rare to Barbados that are in danger of being extinct. So we need to look at that also, because that will have a knock-on effect to the entire ecosystem of the island. So you're saying that it might not make the best place for a reservoir, although this is a very good collection area for water. But the point is that the water is being wasted that could be collected somewhere. You're saying the gully is not the right place. I will bow to your superior knowledge on that for sure. But at the same time, it is coming down and it is going into the sea. But if it's concreted over, then the water will actually go in as pollution, because you'll have the swimming pools, you'll have the sewage, and that will all go into the sea raw from the new development.
Yes, thank you so very much, caller. Appreciate you calling in with that concern. Yeah, John.
I think I'm pretty sure you can't obstruct the water course. So I'm surprised to hear that they're going to allow development in that water course. That is not,
or even in the area.
Right. Anyway, I don't know the law, so I'll keep quiet on that.
Right.
But I don't think that can happen just like that.
But while we're waiting for our next caller to come in, I'm just waiting for a notification on that. Richard, your feelings in terms of that aspect relative to how the whole tongue area would develop, because I understand, I haven't seen anything, and I haven't got any details that you've said. I understand they're looking at the 9-story hotel, which I would think would produce some significant degree of sewage. What your thoughts on how that would affect? Because I understand that that sewage could or would make its way into the sea and have a significant impact on our coastal ecosystem.
Well, for some time we've been talking about soaring the West Coast for that reason, and I would imagine that with the Royalton, just north of this same site, Pendry going a little further north in Six Men's, and now another hotel here, that the fierce urgency of that situation would only be increased, because it is, there is a problem with the West Coast. So I haven't heard anything about dusting off those plans that have been around for a while, but I think it's safe to say that would have to be a part of any planning. And just to confirm what John said, I did have reason from time to time to have responsibility for town planning when I was in government, and they are certainly, well, I believe still are very big on water courses, major water courses, and not blocking them. So I don't think that caller should have anything to worry about, unless there's another dimension that I'm unaware of. But John is correct. They don't let that happen at all.
Right. We have another caller.
But what's
go
the
ahead.
thing? Just
Hello?
beyond your imagination.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Oh, good evening. Can you hear me?
Very soft, very soft. We need some more volume, guys.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's a lot better. Go ahead.
Right. I'm calling with regard to an article that I read today in the Nation News by Senator Ryan Waters on the Hope Project, and the fact that we were promised an investigation about a year ago that Ralph Thorne highlighted the significant mismanagement of the project. They're actually demanding that the investigation be completed and the findings be made public, and that there's no further financial expense plowed into the Hope Project. And they're calling for immediate stop stoppage of whatever's going on with the Hope project at this moment in time. I'm hoping that we do get an independent investigation because we never have one. I hope that names are called because in other countries, i.e. the UK, the politicians who are deceitful and take taxpayers' money are made to pay it back. And in China, they actually shoot their politicians. I know yeah,
they do.
I'm tired of the fact that too much money has been squandered. Nobody is accountable. We are suffering as the people, and something needs to be done. These people need to be held accountable for what they're doing.
Well, I know that the leader of the opposition has raised the matter with the Public Accounts Committee. I believe the Prime Minister, if my memory serves me correctly, has issued an investigation into the matter. I believe that is the case. I was hoping we'd have a few more questions for the aspect of whole tongue and the aspect of the water issues, but I don't know if Mr. Seeley, you would want to make any comments with regards to the whole project. But I do believe that there's supposed to be an investigation into the project itself.
Yes. There's supposed to be an investigation, and we await with bated breath the investigation. And I certainly think we need to broaden it because this question of affordable housing in Barbados is a critical one, and it's not happening. And
Right.
I would love to see a little more priority being placed upon this. The housing stock in Barbados is inadequate in many respects. To find housing and to find affordable housing is a big problem for wage earners. And I'm sorry to see what's going on with Hope, but I can't honestly say I'm completely surprised. But in supporting what your caller is saying, I know that many others will also feel that we can give climate change a break for now and deal with this housing problem. Honestly, I think it is time that we call out the Minister of Finance, who's also the Prime Minister. I'll tell you one of them, junior minister or minister of state. She promised on the floor of the House the business of a quote unquote an investigation because apparently she didn't know what was going on at home. I find it very hard to believe the biggest micromanager we've ever seen in the office of Prime Minister doesn't know what's going on in Hope, and a year later still can't tell us what's going on in Hope. But of course, she can tell us about sea rise levels in the Pacific and how climate change is affecting the world. And I think it's time to give that stuff a break and focus on some of these things at home. And I'm being very serious about that. And by the way, the advocacy, like it's not working because the target set by COP in Paris in 2015, 1.5 degrees, we are 3 degrees and the place getting hotter and hotter. So clearly President Xi and President Trump and the others not listening to her. So deal with the hope and deal with housing problems in Barbados. And after you get that under control, you can then go back flying all over the place dealing with climate change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, caller. I couldn't agree with you more, Richard, in terms of that, to be brutally frank. And not only that, it's like I can't remember the adage they used to use, but it's like it's like the judges investigating the judges, or the lawyers investigating the lawyers. I would like to see a totally independent body, not inclusive of any politicians, due respect to you, sir, not inclusive of any politicians. And we have so many highly qualified people. We have ex-bankers, we have ex-accountants, we have principals of schools, brilliant people, I find, that can look into these matters. And even if they have some affiliations, at least to the Barbadian public, it would be seen to be non-political or non-partisan. That could investigate these things. Like I mean, people may not agree with it at the moment, but like some of the things we're seeing up north now.
But Ferdy, I'm not going to hog the show, but I agree with you totally. We had these independent entities under the last government. Every civic organization in Barbados had something to say about the government I was a part of, and nothing positive. Now we have seen things get worse in housing, worse in health, worse in education, worse in law and order, and we don't hear anything from these entities. And
Yes,
you're
yes.
right. You know, there's nothing that occurred under the last government that can compare to that scandal you call Hope. And yet, not one word from the Chamber of Commerce, not one word from all these civic bodies. There was even a body set up about anti-corruption. Well, where are they now? I mean, the Simon and Garfunkel, what is it? The sound of silence. I mean, it these people claim to have been so patriotic and love Barbados so much. What is the matter?
What is
And
happening now?
it forces me. I mean, and I'm not throwing any cold water on your idea of an independent body like how the UK and the US have those sort of entities that exist and totally out of but civic society that was very garrulous under the last government. They had a lot to say, but they're not speaking out. And I mean, it's okay for opposition has its role, but I also believe that one of the
Civic
strengths
society.
of a democracy is civic society
Yes,
and
absolutely.
having fearless people. You mentioned the university environment, even our theologians. I mean, there was a time when they would come out and say what they had to say. But none of that now. And I think Barbados is the poorer for it because
Right.
you have a situation where a government feels that they can almost get away with anything. I mean, one of the areas I hear you speak about is, this attack on our civil liberties. You've been doing some great work in that, particularly on the cyber component. But even during COVID, a lot of what you were saying, we have slowly allowed these compromises to our civil liberties, even. And
Yeah.
again, people not speaking out. I don't think people are happy about the even trade union leaders. I mean, they've gone totally silent. The big
Yeah.
ones, that is. I mean, our
We,
boy Caswell is doing his thing, but I mean, let's face
yeah.
it. Caswell is he's I won't want to call him a one man show, but he's a one man show plus
Yeah.
a few good people. But he has a lot of love out there in the public
Yeah.
space, though.
We
But
got another caller. We
you
got
got
another
hey,
caller
I'm
here.
sorry,
Yeah.
I went on
Okay,
too
that's all
long.
right. Got another caller said, "Don't go anywhere, gentlemen, and leave me to have to deal with all of this." Yes, caller, go right
Good
ahead,
night to
please.
everyone back there in my
Good
native
night.
lands. Now, out of respect for this recent in 22 years,
We
I
can't
have
hear them,
witnessed
guys.
some of
We can't hear him. We need some
so
volume.
I still
Hello,
try to
caller.
honor
Could you
her
start over
because
again,
she is
please?
trying her
Yeah.
best in a positive way. Now, what do you want to say? Barbados was once a gem of the Caribbean,
Yes.
but now it has fallen into disgrace and is tarnished because of poor, ineffective leadership.
Okay, I got it.
Now, I use Sweden as a parallel. Sweden was once a gem of the European Scandinavian nation as a model for the rest of Europe. But when the Swedish government decided to open their doors and their borders to come whoever may and allow 20% of migrants to come in, it changed the whole economic structure, the cultural structure, and the school educational system went into free fall. Why is that? Because they had no way of assimilating these people into the Swedish culture and way of life. So rather than assimilation, you had deterioration. Okay? Now in Barbados, we see how it's have deteriorated because Mia Motley have taken her eyes off the local interests of the people and turned to the international global consortium hobnobbing with the Rockefeller Foundation, which is known to denigrate blacks and minority people, and was the first one to push the drugs that was destroying people. And then she ran out to the WEF, which is controlled by the Rothschilds and Bill Gates and George Soros, who also control the IMF. Now, when you do that and you want to become a global citizen, Just like how Sweden fell, Barbados is falling and falling hard because Sweden is now a nation full of drugs, gang violence, youth violence, and an education system that has failed. So why is it happening in Barbados? Why is it happening? Because Mia decided to follow the model of the globalists and did not decide how it's going to affect the inhabitants of Barbados. So that just as in Sweden, whereby there was invading people's houses and raping and pillaging, and the police could not do nothing because the turn on the police and certain areas was no-go zones. There's my understanding in Barbados now you have three particular people who are so-called untouchables, although they are the ones at the head of the violence and the guns and the drugs in Barbados because they are associated with the government. So when the government turns a blind eye to decadence, then the whole country falls. Now,
okay, I have to get you. I have to get you to be quick. Caller, I have to get you to be quick because we have other callers on the line. So please just keep that in mind.
All right, just one more point. Just one more point. Music can have an effect for positive or negative advantage. Lately, me and use a song, Midnight Blue, in which lyrics it said, will you give your heart to a friend, think of me as your friend, and you can make it one more time. That was meant to put euphoria into the minds of the people that although things is not okay, I can make it better up ahead. Just trust me. Another way I'll say, give me the voice and watch me. So music can be used to control people's minds and actions. So beware of that. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, sir. You know, it's interesting listening to the comments that are being made. And I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot that we can embrace and import here. I'm always very careful how I use that word because I really believe that we need to develop some of our own things here in Barbados. We're a very unique culture. And I believe that we need to look more at what can be done originating from here in Barbados. You know, Richard, I've been one who has always felt we are being pressed by the overseas globalists, I call them, to do things the way they want it done. Because of course, you know, I think it's he that pays the piper plays the tune kind of thing. And you know, I'm thinking of the brilliant people we have in the country that I don't think we give adequate recognition to develop homegrown solutions for our situations here in Barbados. You know, I don't see that we need to have the International Monetary Fund necessarily dictating to us how we manage our economy and what we do with our economy, regardless of whether we borrow money from them or not. I feel very strongly on that matter because I believe we have enough people on the island with the expertise that should be able to develop our own homegrown solutions. I think one of our founding fathers spoke about the famous saying, "What satellites of what friends of all satellites of none." And then I remember the other one he made about one day you're going to wake up and find that we don't own Barbados or something along that line. This brings me very quickly because a comment came up through our WhatsApp as well, to do with your perspective on the Joes River issue. Because here again, we are dealing with, and I'm being very careful how I word this. We are dealing with non-Barbadians developing areas that are, in a sense, restricting aspects of what we would have experienced over the years, and suddenly we find ourselves being restricted the access to them. I don't know if you have been watching any of that and what your thoughts would be. And of course, you would know the specific area I'm referencing.
Yeah, no, Joe's River is so fundamentally unique and beautiful that I think that the government should go full Monty and try and reclaim it and create some sort of park or something around it. I mean, we don't have much surface water in Barbados, of course, because as John was saying earlier, you know, our subsurface is so porous. When you are out there, you know, it's particularly after you've had some heavy rain or what, you don't even feel like you're in Barbados. I mean, it's a full freshwater river in Barbados. And I will hope, and I will certainly, I thought that yes, I mean, private property. We still have to respect that. But I certainly, the portion where the river goes around the bend there, going down to the coast, there must be some possibility of developing it. I mean, you got the lovely bridge there already. Um, I would, that would be my. Let's put it this way. I thought that's what the government could do. And I mean, if they do it properly, I don't see why the owner would mind. I mean, okay, you'll get some movement and some people, but it would be such a wonderful thing, and it would even enhance the value of his property, because again, it would be contiguous with a completely unique type of land space in Barbados, because we don't have rivers like our neighbors. But
Right.
that would be that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and again, that ain't no official DLP position. You asked me a question, I
No,
answered
I'm
it.
asking
I
you a
think,
question
yeah,
as an individual,
yeah, as an
and John
individual, that's
too.
how I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's.
and
I
and
would
and
love to hear what John has to say
yeah,
on it, but it's
I'm very
very
interested
beautiful.
to John.
Mhm.
Your thoughts on what we're seeing where the Joes River aspect is concerned.
Um, I know it from hiking. The old train track went across the bridge, so we were often hiked in that area. That gully is a lot different to anything on the west coast. There's springs up in the hills up in Horse Hill that supply water that you see in the bottom, but sometimes those springs can actually run dry. And I've been through that across that Joe's River when there's no water whatsoever. I've read, I think it was 1851, that a girl was crossing up by Fraser's, crossing Joe's River, and the water was so strong, I guess it must have just disappeared. It washed her out to sea. So
Wow.
whatever you do down in that gully, development or whatnot, has to comprehend the fact that, you know, there's going to be serious water that comes down there. Just look at that picture and you can see those boulders. You know how I think some of those boulders may have got there when
Water.
Barbados was when the sea level was falling and exposing Barbados. The currents on the Atlantic side literally it was like a claw actually pulling the material out of the Scotland district. So some of those boulders are there probably. They've come off the cliff. They've been battered by the sea, come off the cliff and been pulled down as the sea went out. And there also sometimes there's some serious landslides up in that area. The big ones were, I think, 1784 with Crab Hole, which is St. Elizabeth's Village. You can look and see all the boulders there. Some of them are from the landslips, some are from when sea level was falling. So I was that what you do. I saw. It actually sickens me I saw pictures of what they were doing down there with the house in Bashaba, and I just can't believe that people could do that. But you know, that is what goes around. What is going on at the moment? It's like people don't have an appreciation of what it was like and why it was like that. So
But
I'm sad to see that.
it seems that they don't know,
Yeah.
because again, it comes back, Richard John, to my mind, of being able to blend things together. I mean, I may be naive, forgive me if I am, but I am thinking, if you're going to develop an area, especially one that is historic, or one that has been a staple aspect where the populace is concerned, that you should be able to blend what you're doing with what exists there,
Yeah.
and do it in such a way that it's attractive, for the lack of a better word, both for yourself and for the environment and for the people who would have been there ages before you even thought of coming to the country. I would have thought that that was possible.
I agree. If I were going to live
Yeah.
in a different country, I would I would definitely want to fit in and not offend sensibilities. I would not basically be thinking of changing anything. I would be trying to fit in
Hmm, hmm. And
because
Hmm.
and
you
that's the,
can
that's
get
the
people
thing to me.
vexed.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing to me that I find a bit disingenuous, in the sense that, yeah, we're talking about development. Obviously, you're trying to generate foreign exchange, because, as you said a few moments ago, Richard, um, 2/3 of our foreign reserves are borrowed money. And I spoke to that. I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial person. I don't profess to be, but I hear people talking about foreign reserves, but I'm asking the question, what are we selling that is earning it? And I just don't see that. I see
Hmm.
being very generous at the moment. I'm seeing people traveling all around the world, and I'm asking the question, how is that contributing to the development of the economy and the people of the country? I thank God for that. You're getting your awards and you're getting your recognition. God bless you. I'm happy for you. I see you receive some millions of dollars for that. But how does that translate to what is in the interest of the people of Barbados? How does that generate, um, how does that generate revenues for the country? Because we are borrowing, 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 and at some point in time, it's going to be our downfall.
There's a
No,
place up in
absolutely true.
there's a place
Very
up in
true.
there's a
Yeah.
place up in Chalky Mount
Uh-huh.
called Less Beholden. That's how Bajans used to think. Less beholden.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
No,
You're yeah.
you said it all. I think I don't, and there's this very cavalier approach to this borrowing thing. Sometimes I hear from
Yes. Yeah.
people. It's serious business. I mean, we hear these. We're up there among the most indebted nations in the world, and
We are number one in the
where's
Caribbean. We're number one in the
number one
Caribbean.
in the Caribbean,
In the
and,
Caribbean. Yeah.
and when are we going to start earning? And we have to earn. Um, you know, we have to decide that we are going to really tackle this issue in a meaningful way. And I just don't hear it. I mean, I remember when I was in government, we took a lot of lashes for not going to the IMF. And when we left office, we did not owe the IMF a single cent. As the three of us are here speaking now, the government of Barbados owes the IMF in excess of 400 million US dollars. That's three-quarters of a billion Barbados dollars, and that's just the IMF. I mean, we still have others, and it is crazy. And our economy is what? The GDP is $8 billion. I mean, are we really thinking this thing out? Do we understand what Barbados? I mean, yeah, and again, get past the politics, because I suppose when someone like me opens their mouth, you're gonna figure, oh, that's a political statement. I'm dealing with a raw, bald fact about where we are in terms
Yeah.
of our level of indebtedness, and it's not good. And we need to hear exactly how we are going to get out of this. I mean, these bland statements about, oh, it's to increase capacity. Increase capacity in what? Manufacturing, agriculture, the international business sector, certainly not tourism from what we're hearing. So, what's the plan? And of course, concomitant with this, young people are looking skilled, talented young people are taking up opportunities overseas
That's
and
right.
leaving in droves, and that can't be good. It doesn't all go well for the future.
We have another caller. Yes, caller, go right ahead.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
night.
Good night.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yeah, good night. What I want to say to the panel and the people that here, we in Barbados always talking about borrowing. We're talking about how good economies we are creating. What about the old people that didn't want so much? We have good agriculture and good agriculture. How come we always talk about building hotels and bonds and building hotels and we're not talking about planting the agricultural land? We're talking about building houses and building hotels. How come we are not talking about the agricultural land where we have the best agricultural land in the Caribbean? And we're not planting anything. We're planting houses. We're planting hotels. If you don't need food, we need to get rid of the people who sit in there supposed to be politicians. I don't understand that the people need to be safe. We got to stop borrowing money and start food and get food money for the food, rather than always believing that we're going to borrow. We come up with people that always believe we are hungry and we must borrow the people money. We must learn to create money by planting food and selling. Stop borrowing. If we stop borrowing and feeding, then we're going to check Toyota. Toyota no bought our country equipment for the people to plant. You know, always borrowing money, and they turn around borrowing money again to pay back the money that we borrow. Why not plant some food? Make life happen for the people. Stop planting hotels and planting things like this cardio. We just had a gentleman on the same channel from our different planting all the things to destroy the water sources. We don't have enough water sources, but still we talking about building hotels. What's the point of we talk about planting some food and feeding the people and getting some money for the same food?
Or just reducing the price.
Thank you, caller. But your point is very well taken, caller. Yeah, your points are very. Yes,
I am.
Caller, you're making some very valid points. I just want to hear the panel on this, because one of the things we wanted to touch on tonight, you talked about the aspect of hotels, but Richard, John.
I hope they're destroying the actual landscape.
Yeah. All right, let's get the panel. Let's get the panel to respond, sir.
How these two big things that we did for the land and the other one, how they destroy the water supply in Saint-Lucie. We're going to learn, or we are designated to burn because of the people that we saying is so intelligent and doing so much foolishness. And look at the food we bring into this country. I got to pay for it where we got some very good food in our daily.
Yes, we do. Yes. I just want to get the panelists to respond, because we did want to touch on this. And thank you, caller, for your call. One of the areas, Richard, John, that I have a note of here is the aspect of saying no to the developing agricultural land for housing. I mean, everywhere I am turning, John, everywhere I'm turning, Richard, I am seeing agricultural land out by Coral Ridge, out here in St. George, up in St. Philip, further up in St. John. I'm seeing agricultural land being designated for housing. And mind you, if my mind serves me correctly, the pandemic showed us the need for food security. The pandemic showed us that. What's happening here?
Money.
You're answering as a citizen, Richard. You're answering as a citizen. I'm approaching you as a citizen.
A couple of things. I mean, I'm going to take a crack at this one, because you know, I certainly, like you, I agree with the caller and like his passion, but I think we need to temper his remarks with some reality.
Yes.
I mean, is the will there among our young citizens to pursue a career in the ground? I mean, let's be blunt. Probably not. Having said that, surely there's vertical agriculture, there's hydroponics, there are greenhouse technologies, there are elements like that. Yeah. We have a shortage of land space in Barbados, and I'm not sure if we can plant all of our food in a traditional manner, because there's a chronic shortage of housing in Barbados as well. So I think you have to temper the remarks with reality. And his point about hotels and so on, well, we agree that you developing hotels needs to be sensitive not only to heritage. We didn't delve too much into the environmental end of things, but yes, you want to develop in a sustainable manner. And I think you have to be sensitive to your water resources, your disposal of sewage and treating it, la-di-la. We need to do that. I also don't accept that hotels need to be seen as a competitor where
Correct.
our agricultural sector is concerned. I believed when I was at the ministry, and I still believe now, the best friend of the Barbados farmer should be the tourism sector. Just think about it for a minute.
Oh
We
yes.
get between the cruisers and the long stay, we up to about what now 1.3 million a year. People, and they need to eat too, in addition to our population, and any restaurant manager, any chef worth his salt would way prefer something fresh as opposed to something out of the freezer or out of the can. The best friend of the commercial farmer in Barbados, whether crop or livestock, should be
Should be
the
the tourism
tourism sector,
sector. Yeah.
and can be. Hotels, there are some hotels, yeah, they will support the farmers, and you'll be surprised how many little vans drive into the hotels on a daily basis taking produce. Of course, when you get into menu management, you need some security in terms of some, the supply and so on. You can't put something on the menu and then tell people turn up and you say, well, the farmer ain't turn up today with none. You need that type of element planning. The farmers organization, BAS, and the others need to be active in that regard, and the co-ops, etc. But I don't see tourism competing with agriculture. I see tourism as something that can help
Complementing one another.
greatly, of course,
Yeah.
without a doubt. But I also will say that we need to also bring innovation and technology to the agricultural sector. It's the only way it will work going forward. I agree with the statement. The youth want to farm and not be farm workers. Exactly, and and in order to farm, it's not just having a plot of land and so on. Now, there's so much different things going into this thing now. I didn't even mention aquaponics. The lots of exciting stuff, and one of the things that always struck me going to AgroFest is the same point that your caller, well, your person just said that. No, the amount of young people that are doing agriculture, uh, and so the interest is there, but not
But
in the
not the
traditional
traditional.
sense. No,
Yeah, more
no, no,
technological. It
for
reminds me.
sure.
My son spoke to me about someone he knew who does agriculture in containers, and they actually
Mhm.
took the process to New York, I think it was, or somewhere in the U.S., and they're mauling money on it because this is high tech. They
Mhm.
and they're doing it out of containers, and I can't get my head wrapped around it because I am from the old school where we get the
Mhm.
fork and the hoe, we go out in the field and do that. But to
Mhm.
think of food being grown in a container, I would have to see that. But he did tell me about it. I can't remember too much of the details where that was done.
Mhm.
I believe if that is the kind of thing that we are going to be trying to develop in the future, then I think it has the capacity to attract the younger people because they would want to get into that technological stuff and that type of thing.
Mhm.
But they're certainly not going to go back into the field like our foreparents used to do.
You
I
cannot be a
honestly don't
far,
see
you
that.
cannot farm land and not be a farm worker. That is impossible. If you
Right.
farm land, you are a farm worker. Full stop. You may object to going and working for Mr. X who owns the land, but that's your choice. Don't go to Mr. X. Go to Mr. Y or find a way of purchasing your own land.
Right.
Now, the
Right.
problem is you cannot purchase your own land for farming because housing, housing, you keep saying that housing, there's a chronic shortage of housing. That has to be completely false. It cannot be true. You have a population that is falling, right? I mean, we have houses. How many houses that are built now are vacant? I suspect a lot, because everybody building the same idea with the same idea to rent out houses. And the price of the housing, the price of renting is not coming down. Something is definitely wrong if our population has stopped growing and we have a problem with housing. It cannot be. It just cannot be.
I mean, I'm looking just up the road here from me, Richard, where I live. You remember the cottage plantation?
Oh yeah, of course.
And there's quite a lot of development actually going on in the cottage plantation. A lot of where, as a boy, when I grew up, we were cutting sugarcane out of those very same spots. I mean, I must confess that I used to go in the field and cut out some of those brown skin girls and frozen joys, because they were growing in that area. But I must say that I drive around the country and I saw somebody make a comment there. I don't know how accurate it is because I don't have the figures. I see somebody speaking about 10,000 acres of bush in Barbados that should be growing food. And I am passing a lot of agricultural land, Richard, that I am seeing in just bush, in wild grass, and it looks like cane, but it's not cane. I don't know what they call it, but it looks like cane, but it ain't cane. And I'm seeing acres after acres of that stuff.
The Guinea grass, I think it is. They're the tall,
Like
yeah.
grass. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, but again, we have to just get realistic too. I mean, even if, okay, you tell the youth, go and be a farmer in the traditional sense, water is also very expensive in Barbados. People are coming out of farming because they can't afford the cost of water. And housing is a huge problem in Barbados because of the affordability of it. I mean, who chauffeur worker or gas station worker can afford to pay for these houses in Barbados? I mean, it's fall even when the state is doing it. They are above. Affordable housing is a huge problem in Barbados. And I accept they may be dilapidated properties, but you gotta refurbish them. Where you gonna refurbish them with? A truckload of 300 blocks is $1,000 in Barbados right now. I mean, the cost
construction
is horrible.
Yeah.
And so the days years ago, I mean, when in the 70s, 60s, even as recently as then, you could have had a domestic that could have gone and trussed some lumber down at Manning and that type of thing, and eventually you will get a travel house, and then you will eventually put a wall back on it and so on. All those days are done now. In terms of the costs are just outrageous. And that's the reality.
The reason that water can't is so expensive, and the type of farming that needs to be done obviously is farm. You have to farm products that do not need large amounts of water. We know what does not need, and that is sugarcane. But it doesn't mean that you have to make sugar from sugarcane. Sugarcane can be a cover crop. You can intercrop among it or within it. You can grow yams, potatoes, and so on.
We used to do that.
The problem is that we've been told over and over and over again that sugarcane is evil, but it is not evil. It is the only way that we have survived on this land, because this land is basically water scarce. You cannot grow crops that require water in most of the areas. You just can't. So the only sensible thing to do is to find the crops that you can. We have 300, almost 400 years of experience. We know. We don't have to go and invent the wheel. It's there. We know. That's
and what are you going to do with all of this sugar from this sugar cane? Who are you going to sell it to?
You don't need to sell. You don't need to make sugar. You can use.
Well, you said sugar cane. You didn't say fuel cane. I mean, if you're telling me branching into other areas,
Fuel
fine.
cane is sugar
Um,
cane. Fuel cane is sugar cane. It just has a little less sugar than
fair
sugar.
enough. Fair enough.
Right?
Okay.
But it's
Well,
also
okay. Yeah, but
it's
you
the
said
same
sugar. Yeah.
principle.
I mean,
It's the
okay. It's
same
the same,
principle
same,
that
the
works
same
the
plant.
same
It's the
way.
same plant.
Right?
Okay.
The same
Yeah.
way. Once you get the canes in the
And
ground, once you get the canes in the ground, in 14 months they're ready to reap. You have once you keep the weeds out. Once you start reaping, the trash will keep the weeds down and form a mulch, keep the moisture in. You can then think about using the land that actually has that cover on it. People always say that sugar made Barbados all from way back, but it's not sugar that did it. Sugar was I reckon sugar was 1/10 up to the time that steam came online, which was the 1840s and 50s and 60s. Sugar was 1/10 of the economy of Barbados. 9/10 was trade. If you look at any of those old pictures, old lithographs and pen sketches, look at Carlisle Bay. Look anywhere you will see ships. We had trade going with North America, England, all over. We had trade.
Well,
Trade,
we had a lot of inter-island trade as well, John. We had a
right?
lot of trade between Dominica, Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, St. Lucia.
People miss the point that in the days of sail, we had three things going for us: location, location, and location. You had to get to the market in North America basically exploded with the number of people there. So it started with 350 in 1610. It kept doubling, traveling, and so on every 10 years and so on. All those people came through, or most of those people had to come through the West Indies.
I
Well,
have one last caller, John. Sorry to
okay,
cross you. We just want to
okay,
take
it's no
one
problem.
last caller. Go ahead, caller. Hello? Hello? Not hearing anyone. Hello? Hello? I'm not getting anyone coming in at the moment. You guys will let me know when you have them back on the line. We just have a couple more minutes. It's been an interesting hour. Discussing all of this, and I
Mhm.
think these are very important conversations that need to be had. To be brutally frank, we do need to have more food security in Barbados, and I've always felt that if you don't have to spend the money, you earn it. And in a sense, if we can develop more independence in terms of our agricultural sector, we can produce some more here. We can reduce our import bill, and as a result of that, I think we can reduce what we spend in terms of what we import. And maybe there are a number of things. I go into the supermarket, and to be honest with you, I have a challenge. I must tell you the truth. And whenever we get a caller, guys, just let me know. And I'll just make this my final remark and give you gentlemen your closing remarks. But I find a challenge um, buying local produce compared to imported produce because the prices are so dramatically different. And give you grant, I believe, if I'm correct in saying so, Richard, you would probably be able to correct me in this area, that a lot of the overseas farmers are subsidized by their governments. If I understand, a lot of those countries overseas, a lot of the agricultural sector have subsidies from their governments. I don't know that we do, and if we do, I don't know to what degree. But certainly, I can pick up a package of carrots imported from, just for argument's sake, from New Zealand for $2-3 less than I have to pay for the same weight of carrots in Barbados. I would prefer the local ones because at least I know they're not filled with all the
And it tastes
stuff,
good too.
and it tastes good. So I think we need to really focus on that aspect. And I believe that there are a number of areas we touched on tonight that need And I particularly like what both of you are expressing in terms of sensible planning. It just seems that there's a lot happening in Barbados at the moment ad hocly. It's almost as if people are just pulling things out of the bag just to get something on the radar, so to speak, to show when election time comes. And I must tell you, I'm tired and weary of that type of thing. I think Barbadians have got weary of it. We've become a lot more educated. We're a lot more exposed to the international arena. We see a lot more things. And I think there's a lot that we have expressed tonight that needs further conversation. Gentlemen, let me give you all the first, let me give you all the last comments. John, I'll go with you first and Richard after.
I think really and truly the only place that you can get a lot of work jobs in is agriculture. Bringing that land back into production. Whatever you bring it back in, I don't see how you can get away from sugar cane. And I'm saying, I'm talking about sugar cane, not sugar, sugar cane. And sugar cane is a cover crop. So the jobs are in agriculture. That's where you will get the jobs from. Unfortunately, you build a hotel for 8 million, big deal. How many jobs do you create? Not very many. So I think we need to get our land back working, and employ ourselves getting our land back working. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so very much, John. And thank you for all of that water stuff. I mean, I learned so much tonight about water.
I'm glad to help.
I'm telling you.
It took me ages to figure it out. It took me ages to figure it out. So
remind me to talk to you about something to do with water. All right. I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call. All right.
I'm here.
Richard?
Yeah, no, well, thanks for having me. And I do believe that as we develop as a nation, I'm not convinced that we need to be, it needs to be either or. You look at many of the successful, well, even developed countries, they have services sectors, but they have commodity sectors as well. I mean, pull anyone out of the bag. I mean, you talked about subsidizing farmers in North Atlantic countries, but these countries also have, extractive industries, services industries. They have tourism industries. So we can have a multi-sectorial, mature economy here. I think that and our young people can blaze trails in any sector of their choosing, including agriculture. Yes, the traditional thing may have its challenges in terms of the will, but if you get young people that want to go that route, so be it. But we should also encourage them to embrace the technologies as well and go from there. I also think that what you said about homegrown and doing things in our own unique way, whether it's the same tourism, respecting our environment, respecting our heritage, I think that's also important. I don't like some of what is going on at the socio-political level, particularly with our youngsters, and we have got to start to focus on that. You're quite right. Forget the traditional party play, and let's make this place safe. Let's make this place, truly developed in the total sense of the word, and let's see that we can once again enjoy that very high quality of life that we seem to have lost somewhat. I know that when you reflect on your times in Boscobel coming up as a youngster, and you see what your son and your grandchildren are going to be going through, even though they may be materially better off, the quality of life is what concerns you. And I think we can get back there and take it to another level. So once again, great chatting with both of you, and always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure having both of you on, and I know you'll be hearing
Thanks
from
for having
Marcia
me.
in the future. I
Yeah,
can assure
thank
you
you.
of that, because I really feel that you know, these are conversations that we have to have. What has to happen in the best interest of Barbados, you know. And Richard John, I never used to give it as much thought as I do now. I have grandchildren, and you know, our old preacher said to me one day, it's one thing to have children, but your outlook in life is going to change when you have grandchildren. I didn't know what he was talking about until I have now 6. And
Good for you.
I can tell you that I look at them and I am more concerned about the future that we are leaving for them. Um, you know, in terms of all that we have discussed, you know, and Richard John, what troubles me most is the 8 point something billion US dollar debt that they are going to have to deal with. Because I'm going to assure you, this government is going to leave office and they will leave the debt there. Undoubtedly, the next one coming in may have to add to that. And we just have this ongoing build. And it troubles me in the face of a lack of income earning elements in Barbados, how we are going to deal with that. That's the honest to God truth. I speak as a father and I speak as a grandfather, and I'm sure you all have your own, you know, those own personal perspectives that are affecting your lives today. You know, so I want to thank all of you, really, both you and John, for being on the show tonight. Thank you for your contributions. It has been really, really great. And honestly, I've enjoyed it absolutely. And I look forward to an opportunity again to engage you both. Thank you so much. And I
Thanks.
want to thank
Thank you.
all of you listeners, all of you there, the loyal opposition, your comments. We've been following all of those comments. Dave has been helping me with them. And again, I want to shout out Dave. He's been just a tremendous value here tonight. I mean, my goodness, I couldn't have done it without you, Dave. So thank you so very much. And you know, Marcy has been in the background there too, helping with the calls, and we want to thank her as well. So thank you all for being here at the Marcia Week show. It's been a pleasure having all of you. Can't call all of your names. Oh my God, it would take me the rest of the night to do that. And again, we thank you, Richard. Thank you, John, for
Thank
being
you.
with us tonight. God bless you
All right.
all, and wish you all a great, great night. Dave, I don't know if you have any special music to take us.
English. Pretending to be good. Pretending to be good. Just pretending to be good. Pretending to be good. I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Good night, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.